I saved Lucci from being bullied, but he ended up falling for the girl who bullied him, and he hated me for it for the rest of his life. If you hadn't meddled back then, we would have been together long ago, just as he wished. I was reborn on the day he got cornered in the alley. This time, I didn't stick my nose in. 1. What's the point of good grades? Still just a fatherless bastard. Hey, genius, look at the camera. Come on, give us a smile. Ha 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 ha. A raucous, unrestrained clamor pierced the air. So you directed her people to drag Lucci into the alley. Her hair streamed behind her as she looked down at Lucci, who lay prostrate at her feet, her strikingly beautiful face a mask of pure malice. Lucci had curled himself into a tight ball. The exposed skin was covered in dark, mottled bruises. He was soaking wet and reeked of a foul, toilet-like stench. The worst part, however, was his face. Someone had scrawled the word bastard across it in large, permanent marker letters. I stood at the mouth of the alley, quietly pausing to watch for a while. Noticing my gaze, Suyu took a drag of his cigarette and said sarcastically, "What's the matter? Our Misgu can't stand to watch anymore. Coming to serve justice, are you?" Lucci looked up at the sound of my voice. His eyes were moist, holding a glimmer of hope and a silent plea. I gave a slight smile and said, "It's nothing. Please, carry on." Then, without a shred of mercy, he turned and walked away. In my past life, I chose to walk into that alley and stop those people. My family was wealthier than Suyu's, so she didn't dare cross me and had to back down. Lucci grew up in an orphanage, living in poverty and often being looked down upon. So, in the name of the Gu group, I funded his education all the way through university. After graduating, by a stroke of coincidence, Lucci was reunited with his biological father, the chairman of the Lu group. The Lu family's financial resources and legacy far surpassed those of the Gu family. I never intended to use my past kindness as leverage to demand anything from the Lu family, but I never could have imagined that the first thing Lucci would do after taking control of the Lu group was to spare no effort in crushing the Gu family. In the end, the Gu group went bankrupt. My father, overwhelmed with fury and despair, suffered a sudden cerebral hemorrhage and passed away. Unable to bear the relentless blows, my mother ultimately chose to end her life by jumping from a building. In a daze, I rushed to the Lu Corporation, desperate to confront Lucci and demand an explanation. I never thought I had treated him poorly, so why did I end up in such a wretched state? But what I never expected was to see Suyu, whom I hadn't seen in ages, right there in Lucci's office. Gone was the brash arrogance of her youth. She now gazed at Lucci with a pitiful, delicate expression. She said she had been young and foolish back then. The reason she used to bully Lucci was actually because she liked him and wanted to get his attention. She also mentioned that during her senior year of high school, she had thought about confessing her feelings to Lucci. It was only under my coercion that they had no choice but to give up and bury their feelings deep within. After the college entrance exams, the two of them ended up at universities on opposite ends of the country. After graduating from university, Suyu hastily entered into an arranged marriage, following her family's wishes, and just like that, the trajectories of their lives passed each other by. It was only then that I learned Lucci had been secretly in love with Suyu since middle school. Every scar she left on him, he had traced with his fingertips in the lonely depths of night, imagining the touch of his beloved skin. When he saw me, his gaze was ice cold. "If you hadn't meddled back then, we would have been together long ago. So, Gu Yen, tell me, should I get my revenge on you?" How pathetic. I laugh at Lucci for stooping so low as to fall for his own bully. I even laughed at myself for my poor judgment, which brought disaster upon my family. After leaving the Lu Corporation, I wandered the streets in a daze. When a truck came barreling down the road, I failed to get out of the way, or perhaps, I no longer wanted to. But I never imagined I'd be thrown back to my senior year of high school, back to that very alley where my path first crossed with Lucci's. Fate had given me a second chance to choose. This time, I won't set foot in that godforsaken, lightless alley again. Let Lucci rot alone in that wretched back alley. He deserved every bit of the suffering he endured. 2. For several days in a row, Lucci walked into the classroom covered in wounds. This time, with no one to hold him back. Suyu threw all caution to the wind. All of Lucci's books were cut to shreds and thrown in the trash. His desk was stuffed full of waste from the bathroom bin. They even scrawled abusive words all over his desk and clothes. After enduring it in silence for so long, he finally couldn't take it anymore and came to find me. "Monitor, I need your help. If this keeps up, I'm really going to get beaten to death by those guys." He said it as if he'd used up every last ounce of his courage. His face flushing red. Lucci was a proud person who never showed weakness in front of others. In my past life, I helped him, and he never once uttered a word of thanks, and now he's condescending to come begging for my help. It seems Suyu and the others really gave him a proper beating. I watched him with leisurely composure. For something like this, you should really go see the homeroom teacher. I'm just a student myself. What could I possibly do to help? Lucci hung his head even lower. His hand, hanging at his side, clenched tightly into a fist, clenched, then released. The homeroom teacher won't do anything about it. His voice was as faint as a mosquito's hum. Suyu's family is wealthy, but I'm just as if he would ever risk offending Suyu for my sake. Ha, he certainly got that figured out. We attended a private school, where most of the students came from wealthy or influential families. Students like Lucci, academically gifted but from impoverished backgrounds, admitted on special scholarships, were a rare exception. The homeroom teacher is a snob who loves to fawn over the privileged and bully the underdogs. That's exactly why Suyu dares to act so brazenly. She knows the teacher wouldn't dare to stand up for Lucci and risk offending her. Unlike me, the class monitor, who's always been quick to champion justice and often stands up for the less fortunate students in our class. That's precisely why Lucci came to me. I sneered inwardly. In my past life, I was the one who offered help. Not only did I receive no gratitude, but I earned Lucci's resentment instead. This time around, he's come asking for help on his own. What a glutton for punishment. I looked at Lucci and said, unhurriedly, so, how would you like me to help you? Are you suggesting I use my connections to get Suyu expelled? Lucci was taken aback for a moment, instinctively looking up at me. An awkward expression then crossed his face. That's not what I meant, Lucci said, sounding a bit uncomfortable. I don't think Suyu is a bad person at heart. Someone must have said something to her, which led to this misunderstanding about me. I just want to clear things up with her so she'll stop targeting me. I stared at him, a cold sneer twisting in my heart. Well, would you look at that? So, Lucci had already fallen for Suyu by this point. I just can't help but wonder, what on earth made him fall for her? Surely you're not a natural-born masochist, I said deliberately. How do you know Suyu isn't bad at heart? Do you know her that well? When I mentioned Suyu, a faint, involuntary smile crept onto Lucci's bruised and swollen face. When I first started school, I was just like everyone else. I thought she was just a good-for-nothing delinquent. A wave of deep nostalgia washed over Lucci's eyes, until one day, I suddenly noticed she often fed stray cats on the roadside with pieces of ham. That's when I realized she just liked putting on a tough front in front of others. Her heart was actually soft and kind all along. Got it. Sure, she smokes, drinks, and bullies people, but she feeds the kitten ham, so, she's a kind, good girl, even though ham is full of salt and additives. And feeding it regularly only puts a strain on a kitten's organs, disrupts digestion, and does absolutely no good. Yet, none of this stopped Lucci from being utterly captivated by her kindness and falling in love with her. Finally, a mystery in my heart was solved, but instead of feeling relieved, I only found it absurd. Just thinking about my past life, I was ruined by a pair of lunatics like them. More than resentment, it was a deep-seated unwillingness to accept defeat. Since they were so clearly smitten with each other, this time, I was determined to play the perfect matchmaker for this ideal couple. The corner of my lips curled slightly, my eyes grew profound, and my voice, like a vortex, lured one to fall deeper with each word. Yeah, I don't think Suyu is a bad person at heart. You two probably just have some misunderstanding that hasn't been cleared up. Alright, here's what we can do. The class seating chart is getting rearranged next week. I'll have a word with the homeroom teacher for you. I'm putting you two at the same desk. You should get to know each other better. 3. When the new seating chart was posted, Suyu completely lost it. Who wants to sit next to that damn orphan? He absolutely reeks. God only knows the last time he took a shower. To be fair, Lucci is actually quite particular about his hygiene, but every day after he arrives at school, he's quickly dragged to the bathroom for a baptism. Over time, a lingering foul odor has settled on him. The homeroom teacher looked at Suyu, speaking with a hint of guilt. Suyu, your score this time is the lowest in the entire grade. Lucci is the second highest scorer in the whole grade. The reason for seating you together is so that Luke can help tutor you. Let's study together and improve together. Still unconvinced, Suyu pursed her lips and said, so, who was the top student in our year? Can't you arrange for me to sit with the number 1 student? A faint smile touched my lips as I turned to Suyu and said, unhurried, it was me. What? You want to be my desk mate? Suyu's expression instantly froze. I've never gotten along with her. Suyu is arrogant, domineering, and acts like she's above everyone else. Yet, in looks, family background, and grades, I've always outshone her. I've even called her out a few times before, standing up for other classmates. She regarded me with a mixture of disgust and a touch of fear. Upon hearing that I was the top scorer, Suyu immediately fell silent. She reluctantly took a seat next to Lucci. As she sat down, she didn't forget to shoot him a venomous glare. I noticed, however, that Lucci's lips were curling into an involuntary smile, his fingertips trembling slightly with excitement. Classmate Sue, I look forward to working with you from now on, he said in a low voice. Suyu responded with an epic eye roll. She held back in class, but the moment school was out, she slapped Lucci across the face. Damn, this is so freaking disgusting. Sitting next to you makes me feel like I'm getting contaminated. The more Suyu thought about it, the angrier she got, and she proceeded to slap Lucci over a dozen times in a row. You think you're so special? Huh, who the hell told you to get second in the whole grade? Gotta show off, don't you? She was picking a fight and finding fault without any rhyme or reason. I took my time packing my things, all the while keeping a watchful eye on them from the corner of my own. Perhaps her arms were getting tired. As Suyu paused for a brief moment, Lucci quickly chimed in. Actually, the homeroom teacher is right. I could tutor you. Suyu let out a cold, mocking laugh. For someone as wealthy as her, grades were completely irrelevant. Her family's fortune was more than enough to guarantee her a life of comfort. Just as she was about to retort, Lucci added, I can even help you with your regular assignments. Only then did Suyu smile with satisfaction. At least you know what's good for you. And just like that, Lucci became Suyu's loyal and devoted lackey. Aside from helping with homework and cheating on exams, Suyu also frequently ordered him around on errands. Lucci, for his part, seemed to relish it. Perhaps it was his agreeable attitude, or perhaps Suyu had simply grown bored and was looking for a new plaything. During this period, the frequency of her tormenting Lucci decreased. At the very least, the daily baptism was no more. A smile gradually began to appear on Lucci's face. Seeing these two doing so well is worse than killing me. I decided to give them another little push, so I made sure Suyu overheard me praising Lucci. He's actually quite handsome, gets good grades, and has a nice personality too. I lowered my head and said, a little shyly, I think he'd actually make a pretty good boyfriend. Suyu looked at me thoughtfully. A flicker of malice passed through her eyes. For, soon, to the surprise of the entire class, they noticed, Suyu's attitude towards Lucci had done a complete 180. Not only did she stop all bullying behavior, but her tone when speaking to Lucci even became gentle and soft. She even brought him breakfast every day. Everyone was puzzled by her change, only I knew the reason. Suyu had long been overshadowed by me, harboring both resentment and fear towards me. Now, there's a way for her to beat me for once. By taking the person I like, of course, she wouldn't pass up an opportunity like that. Their relationship kept getting closer and closer. Then one day, Lucci finally sent me a message. Class monitor. Suyu confessed to me. She said she's actually liked me all along. All those things she did before were just to get my attention. To be honest, Lucci and I aren't really that close, but he was bursting to share this incredible news with someone, and I was the only one in class who would even talk to him. So, he immediately sent me a whole bunch of screenshots from their chat. See, I told you she's not a bad person at heart. She's actually a really sweet girl. Class monitor. Thanks for helping arrange the seating so I could be her desk mate. I never would have guessed she liked me all along. I swiped away his message with a cold sneer. Then, without a second thought, I tapped into another group chat. The group chat Suyu had created. Everyone from the class was in there, except for Lucci. There were a few chat screenshots in the group album. They were exactly the same as the ones Lucci had sent me, however. Suyu definitely hadn't posted those screenshots in a spirit of joyful sharing. In the group chat, she mocked him without restraint. What a pathetic simp. He comes running and wagging his tail the moment I beckon. He should take a good look at himself in the mirror. A toad lusting after a swan. I said I bully him because I like him. This idiot actually fell for it, lol. How can someone be this stupid? And they call this person a top student. Suyu shares the sweet nothings Lucci sends her in the group chat every day, but she always posts them with a tone of mockery. Gather round, folks, the clowns in town. Lucci had become a laughingstock to everyone, completely unaware of it himself. He was still utterly lost in his own delusional fantasy, all to maintain his carefully crafted persona. I deliberately spoke up for Lucci in the group chat. Suyu, don't you think you've gone too far? Lucci genuinely likes you. Why would you deceive him like this? Seeing me stand up for her, Suyu was even more delighted. She replied in a sarcastic, mocking tone. Oh, look at that. Our dear Miss Gu is feeling protective, but that's just how I am. The sight of a worthless man just makes me want to toy with his feelings. Go ahead, try and steal him from me. I dare you. After that, I doubled down on making Lucci's life difficult. I feigned concern and said, Lucci's grades used to be so good. It's all because of you that he's been slipping so much lately, so Suyu clung to Lucci even more. She insisted he accompany her everywhere every day, and kept talking to him even during class. Before long, Lucci's grades had slipped to below the top 100 in his year. I feigned indignation and said, Lucci's family is already struggling. He has to work a part-time job after school just to get by. And you, Suyu, keep pestering him for gifts. You've really gone too far, so you started demanding that Lucci buy her designer handbags every single day. Lucci couldn't bear to disappoint his girlfriend. He had no choice but to grit his teeth and take on 2 more part-time jobs. To save even more money, he would only eat 1 meal a day. Before long, he became gaunt and haggard beyond recognition. He fainted in public on several occasions due to malnutrition. Every time I felt a pang of heartache for him, it only fueled Suyu's determination to torment Lucci. With most of senior year gone, Lucci looked pale, frail, and utterly dazed. His once proud academic ranking had now slipped beyond the top 300. As the college entrance exam loomed, I decided to turn up the pressure one more notch. I arranged to meet Suyu alone. I, who had always carried myself with aloof pride, spoke to Suyu in a pleading tone for the very first time. I said, Suyu, I'm begging you, please stop holding Lucci back like this, for a student from a poor background like him. The college entrance exam might be his one and only chance to change his fate. If you keep messing around like this, you're going to ruin him. This was the first time I had ever groveled before Suyu. Her face was a picture of smug, petty triumph. I understand. A malicious grin spread across Suyu's face. I'll take good care of him from now on. So, after the college entrance exams ended, I heard a piece of news. Also, he could attend the same university as Suyu. Lucci handed in a blank exam paper for one subject. 5. My grades were already very good to begin with. This was already my second time taking the college entrance exam. When the results came out, I had undoubtedly placed in the top 10 in the province. I could pick any university and major in the country. I also looked into how Lucci and Suyu had done. Neither of them could even get into a proper university. At best, they could only get into a vocational college. Except, what an idiot. I lied and told him I didn't want a long-distance relationship, so I tricked him into scoring lower on the exams to go to the same university as me. He actually went and did it. My family had already arranged for me to study abroad ages ago. Who would want to go to some lousy community college with him? In the group chat, Suyu was laughing mockingly. Alright, it's about time to end this game, guys. The day after tomorrow, I'm going to ask him to meet up and tell him the truth to his face. I'll bring a hidden camera with me when I go. I'll give you all a live stream of the clown having a meltdown. She made a point of announcing the time and place in advance. Tomorrow at noon, in the school gymnasium. Without a moment's hesitation, I beat him to it and sent Lucci a message. Are you free? Let's meet up tonight. Worried he might refuse, I deliberately added another line. It's about Suyu. Lucci replied instantly, understood. The play was finally reaching its climax. 6. Lucci stood a good 10 paces away from me. Ever since he got together with Suyu, he had conscientiously upheld his male virtue, keeping a respectful distance from all other girls. Even though Suyu herself didn't care in the slightest, I looked at him, my face etched with heartache. I've actually wanted to tell you about this for a long time, but seeing how much you love Suyu, and how happy you were, I just couldn't bring myself to say it. I always thought that with your devotion, even someone as cold-hearted as Suyu would eventually be moved, but I never imagined she would actually. Enough. Lucci cut me off impatiently. His expression towards me also took on a hint of disgust. If the only reason you asked me out today was to badmouth Xiaoyu, then I'm afraid I must excuse myself. What a perfect, doting boyfriend. A cold laugh echoed in my heart. I just wonder if he'll still be so devoted after seeing those group chat screenshots. That's right. I took screenshots and recordings of everything Suyu said in that group chat. I even recorded our private meeting that one time, all for this moment. In my past life, Lucci, for the sake of his so-called love, brought ruin upon my family and destroyed my life. This time, I will make him watch with his own eyes, how that hypocritical and vile love will crumble. He's such a pathetic simp. Just give him a little wave and he'll come running, wagging his tail. Why don't you take a good look at yourself in the mirror? Talk about a toad lusting after a swan. I said I bully him because I like him. This idiot actually fell for it. Moo, how can someone be this stupid? And they call themselves a top student, but that's just how I am. Whenever I see a sleazy guy, I just can't help but mess with his feelings a little. Words of pure, unadulterated humiliation. With each new line he read, Lucci's face grew paler, his whole body trembling like a leaf in the wind. At first, Lucci tried to put on a brave front, saying, impossible, None of this is real, you're just trying to drive a wedge between us on purpose." But by the end, his eyes were bloodshot, his hands clenched into tight fists. And the muscles in his entire face were trembling. That bitch, she lied to me, that bitch, I'm going to kill her." I presented that recording at just the right moment, feigning sincerity as I said, "I tried to talk her out of it before the college entrance exam, but I never imagined she'd turn around and trick you into handing in a blank paper. It's such a shame, you used to have such excellent grades. Getting into a top-tier university would have been a breeze for you. Now, the best I can hope for is a vocational college, and look at her. She just waltzed off to study at a university abroad. She's ruined your entire life." Honestly, even if Lucci can't get into a top university, in a few years, after he reunites with his biological father, he'll still be able to live a life of luxury. But at this moment, I spared no effort in emphasizing the critical importance of the college entrance exam. I relentlessly drilled into him the idea that his entire life had been ruined by Suyu, and that he was doomed to wallow in the mire forever. The hatred in Lucci's eyes grew ever more profound. Finally, I gave him a friendly reminder. "Suyu said she wants to meet you tomorrow, probably to humiliate you in public again. Don't you dare go soft on her and get fooled again." 7. At noon the next day, right on schedule, Suyu started her live stream. Lucci walked over from a distance. Suyu whispered excitedly, "All right folks, the show's about to begin, let's see how this pathetic simp makes a fool of himself." Am I the only one who noticed that Lucci kept his hands in his pockets the entire time he walked over? His face was dark and gloomy, his eyes bloodshot, his once handsome face was now twisted into a terrifying grimace. Suyu, completely oblivious to the strangeness, continued to order him around. "Didn't I tell you to be an hour early for our date? How dare you keep me waiting?" Lucci, looking for a beating. "Are you?" Lucci stared at her intently, then suddenly gave a sinister smile. "All right, I get it, I won't be late again." Suyu shot him a look full of contempt and mockery. The corner of her mouth lifted into a malicious grin as she said, "There is no later for us anymore, Lucci. I'm going abroad to study. As for you, with those grades, you'll be lucky to get into a trade school. Ha. The reason I asked you here today was to tell you it's over between us." Lucci continued to stare at her intently, his expression completely unchanged. He seemed neither surprised nor displeased by what Suyu had said. "Why?" he asked in a low voice. "It was you who told me to score lower so we could go to the same school." Suyu finally couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. She laughed for a full 3 minutes. Her entire face flushed bright red from laughing. "Ha ha ha ha, Lucci. You are the biggest fool I have ever seen." "Why, you're still asking why? Ha 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 ha." Suyu looked up at Lucci and enunciated each word clearly. "It's simple. I never liked you. I was just toying with you all along." "Lucci, you don't actually think anyone could ever love an orphan like you, do you? Even your own parents thought you were bad luck and abandoned you. Why don't you just go and die?" Suyu's words, each one a dagger to the heart, came pouring out effortlessly. That sent a wave of satisfaction through me. She was completely oblivious to the growing horror in Lucci's expression and just kept ranting. "You have no idea how much you disgust me. The sight of your pathetic, bootlicking act makes me sick. The only reason I stooped to being your girlfriend was to watch you fail. You're such an idiot for actually listening to me. You gave up the college entrance exams. Ha 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 ha." She laughed without a shred of restraint, completely oblivious to Lucci's eyes, which were red to the point of seeming to bleed. Someone in the class group chat noticed something was off and sent a message to alert Suyu, but it was already too late. The change happened in an instant. "You bitch, you goddamn bitch, you ruined me. Go to hell, I'll kill you, you fucking bitch, I'll kill you." Lucci roared, utterly unhinged, clutching a fruit knife. He drove it into Suyu's body again and again without mercy. The flesh was a mangled, bloody mess. She screamed, trying to flee, but Lucci pursued her relentlessly, like a vengeful demon. 1 stab, 2 stabs, 3 stabs, a full 17 stabs. Suyu collapsed entirely into a pool of blood, as if his soul had been ripped out. Lucci also crashed heavily to the ground. He collapsed to his knees in the blood of the one he loved. 8. Suyu was still alive. Someone in the class group chat had already called the police the moment Lucci began his attack. She's incredibly lucky to be alive. All 17 stab wounds miraculously missed her vital organs. However, although Suyu survived, the damage to multiple organs means she'll be confined to a hospital bed for the rest of her life, dependent on machines to stay alive. It's practically the same as being dead. As for Lucci, the entire scene of him committing the murder was completely captured on camera by Suyu, caught red-handed. He was arrested on the spot by the police and taken to prison. It is said that Suyu's family harbored a deep-seated hatred for him, They specifically bribed the prison staff to make his life a living hell. Within 24 hours of his arrest, Lu Qi suffered an accident that left him with a broken leg and the loss of an eye. Still not satisfied, the Su family hired the best lawyers to ensure he received the harshest sentence possible. I thought this setback would be enough to finish Lu Qi for good, but what I never expected was this. 2 days later, I heard some news. The Su family agreed to settle with Lu Qi out of court. He's been released. When I got the news, I was stunned for a good while. The Su family's willingness to settle was completely unexpected. Besides, what Lu Qi did constitutes attempted murder. Even if the victim's family doesn't press charges, it's highly unlikely he'd be released immediately under normal circumstances. Unless, I remembered Lu Qi's biological father from my previous life, the chairman of the Lu Corporation. Rumor has it that their reunion was purely a matter of chance. The company Lu Qi joined after graduation happened to be a subsidiary of the Lu family's conglomerate. He bore a striking resemblance to Mr. Lu in his younger years. This prompted Mr. Lu to become suspicious upon meeting him. He specifically ordered an investigation into the matter. That's when I realized Lu Qi was actually my own son, and according to my plan, Lu Qi would be locked up for at least 8 to 10 years. After his release, with only a high school diploma and a criminal record to his name, a major corporation like the Lu Group would never give him a second glance. This completely severed any chance of him recognizing Lu's father, thereby altering the course of his destiny. And yet, was their recognition of each other truly a pure accident? On second thought, in my past life, Lu Qi was utterly heartless, yet, he spared no effort in crushing my family, all because of a few words of provocation from Suyu. It seems a bit too extreme, doesn't it? Was his assault on my family's business truly motivated by nothing but pure vengeance? From what I understand, the Lu family was looking to expand into the new energy industry at the time, and my family happened to be the industry benchmark. If old Mr. Lu, motivated by commercial competition, either instructed or tacitly approved of Lu Qi's actions, wouldn't that be a more plausible explanation? 9. I had someone quietly look into Mr. Lu's father. It didn't actually require much effort. After all, for a business titan like Mr. Lu's father, his exploits from his youth are just a quick online search away. It's just that I had been directing all my hatred towards Lu Qi, forgetting the real power behind him. The story of Lu's father's rise to wealth can be summed up in one sentence. A poor boy married into a wealthy family, climbing from a son-in-law dependent on his wife's fortune to a self-made billionaire. Lu's father's first wife, Madame Tang, came from a powerful political family. The couple had a daughter named Tang Jiwei. It's worth noting that Tang Jiwei is only 3 months older than Lu Qi. When Mrs. Tang was 3 months pregnant, Mr. Lu had an affair. The mistress tried to leverage her pregnancy to secure her position, not realizing that Mr. Lu was merely a subservient live-in son-in-law who had to tread carefully in the Tang family. He resolutely cut off all contact with the other woman, seeing that the path to securing her position through a child was blocked. After giving birth to Lu Qi, the mistress unhesitatingly abandoned him at an orphanage, and according to the report from the private investigator, Mr. Lu had actually discovered 3 years ago that Lu Qi was his son. But he dared not acknowledge him due to the influence of the Tang family. It wasn't until this incident, where his biological son got into serious trouble and faced possible imprisonment, that he finally stepped in. He was able to strong-arm the Su family into an out-of-court settlement. Mr. Lu must have pulled quite a few strings and used some serious methods. With such a big operation, could it really be kept from Ms. Tang? No sooner had I voiced my doubt than the private detective kindly reminded me, Ms. Tang was diagnosed with cancer not long ago. Time is running out. Their daughter, Tang Jiwei, is studying abroad and just received the news that her mother is critically ill. She is now on her way back home. I see. I couldn't help but let a flicker of contempt cross my face. I knew it. A man as selfish and cold-hearted as Mr. Lu would never risk exposing his affair to save his illegitimate son. So it turns out his legal wife is critically ill, and his daughter is all alone out there. A scumbag is a scumbag. He really knows how to weigh his options. He and Lu Qi are truly cut from the same cloth. Both are ungrateful wretches. It seems inferior genes are indeed passed down through the generations. However, this time, I won't let them get away with it so easily. Please find out which flight Miss Tang is taking back to the country. A faint smile touched the corner of my lips as I said slowly, I'm going to pick someone up from the airport. 10. At the airport cafe, Tang Jiwei frowned as she looked at me. Her gaze held a measure of scrutiny and wariness. I don't care for beating around the bush, she said quietly. You've got 3 minutes. If you have something to say, get to the point. Perfect. She's direct. So there's no need for me to beat around the bush. I took a clear, front-facing photo of Lucci out of my bag. Tang Jiwei froze for a second when she saw the face that bore an uncanny resemblance to her biological father. This is my classmate, Lucci. He's an orphan. Tang Jiwei took the photo and studied it carefully in her hands. An orphan, she murmured again. Yes, an orphan with no parents, no power, no influence. I took a slow sip of my coffee and said leisurely, a few days ago, he attempted murder over a romantic dispute. The victim's family, however, is quite powerful and influential. But strangely, they opted for an out-of-court settlement. Lucci was subsequently acquitted and released without charge. Miss Tang, what do you make of this situation? Tang Jiwei's face darkened, her gaze turning sinister and cold. To be released after attempted murder, they must have some serious connections. The murderous intent in Tang Jiwei's eyes was unmistakable. She had clearly understood my implication. It's a real pleasure talking to someone sharp. I smiled faintly and said, so. Miss Tang, what's your plan? Tang Jiwei let out a cold laugh. Scum like that is better off rotting in prison for good, so they can't keep hurting people. As for the people behind him, that heartless, ungrateful bastard, is there any need to show mercy? I raised an eyebrow slightly. After all, I thought, Mr. Lu was Tang Jiwei's biological father. I expected her to show at least a little hesitation, but her ruthless decisiveness in that moment took me completely by surprise. It suddenly came back to me, my past life. In that previous life, I never had any contact with Tang Jiwei. I only knew that Lucci had a half-sister who was institutionalized in a sanatorium due to mental illness. That's why he was able to inherit the Lu family's entire fortune. But now, looking at Tang Jiwei before me, her bearing is extraordinary, decisive and formidable. Nothing like someone suffering from a mental illness. It seems that in my previous life, in corners unknown to me, some interesting things had happened, but that's all in the past now. This time, everything will be different. 10. Tang Jiwei is as decisive and efficient as expected. Another week passed. It all started with someone reporting the Lu group for tax evasion. After that, a flood of anonymous tip-offs came pouring in. I quietly tried to sound out my family for information. My father told me, in a rather guarded tone, that old man Lu had crossed someone powerful, and that this was a deliberate move to take him down. The Lu group is going to get absolutely hammered this time. It goes without saying who's behind the pressure on old man Lu. For all his wealth and influence, you can't fight City Hall. The Tang family is a political dynasty, with high-ranking officials aplenty. Bringing him down would only take a few words. Not long after, old man Lu was imprisoned on charges of multiple economic crimes. Meanwhile, Tang Jiwei took over the entire Lu corporation. With the big fish already caught, the little ones were bound to fare no better. Rumor has it that the Su family had a change of heart and has filed an appeal. They even hired the best lawyer in the country, determined to secure a harsher sentence for Lucci. However, when the court convened, Lucci was conspicuously absent. No one knows where he's hiding. After my father got him out, he was set up in a villa in the suburbs, but by the time I took people over there, he had already vanished without a trace. Right now, he's probably on the run all over the city. If you hear anything about him, contact me immediately. I stared at the message from Tang Jiwei, lost in thought. Little did she know, Lucci was, at that very moment, in my room. 11. To be honest, this was beyond my expectations as well. The moment I stepped inside, a dark figure darted out. It covered my mouth and pinned my limbs down firmly. Gu Yan, it's me, Lucci. I blinked, momentarily confused by the situation. Lucci released my hand and slumped down onto my bed. After all these days, I finally got a look at Lucci in his current state. He was as thin as a reed, with numerous unhealed wounds covering his body. His right leg was noticeably shorter than his left. His left eye socket was a dark, hollow void. The eye had been cruelly gouged out. He reeked of a pungent, sour stench, as if he hadn't bathed in ages. What a pitiful sight. Like a beaten dog, he looked at me, his face a picture of defeat and desperation. Yen Yen, you're all I have left now. You're the only one who can help me. I fought back a laugh and asked, Lucci, what do you mean by this? Lucci stared at me intently. These past few days, I had a dream. I dreamed about that time when Suyu was bullying me, and you stepped in to stop her. Later, you even sponsored my university education. After that, I was reunited with my father and inherited the Lu group. I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. I never expected Lucci to also regain the memories of his past life. Good for him. That way, he won't have to plead his innocence when he goes to hell. So what? I asked pointedly. In that dream, after you made it big, did you repay me properly? Lucci's gaze faltered for an instant. He said guiltily, that's not important, Yen Yen. What matters is, I finally know who truly loves me, whether in the past, in dreams or in reality. You've always been the one who's been the best to me. Lucci gazed at me with tender affection and said earnestly, Yen Yen, I know you've had a crush on me all along, haven't you? You were the only one in the class willing to talk to me, and when that bitch Suyu deceived me, you were the one who kept helping me. He spoke, as if steeling himself with great resolve. If you can find a way to clear my name, I can be your boyfriend. Do you think I'm some kind of pushover? Lucci's depravity is truly beyond my comprehension. Even after regaining memories of his past life, learning Suyu's true nature, and realizing he wronged me and harmed my parents, he still had the audacity to say such things. Showing any mercy to this scum would mean I've lost my mind. I pretended to play along with him. I seized the moment when he was distracted and secretly called the police. As he was being shoved into the police car, Lucci's face was a picture of utter disbelief. He was still putting up a desperate, last-ditch struggle. Yen Yen, please, you have to save me. Tell them you're the one who killed Suyu. Once you're out of prison, I'll marry you. Okay. I met his panicked gaze and said coldly, in this life or the last, I have never loved you. In my past life, I helped you because I am a person of principle. This time, I choose to stand by and do nothing because you are not worth it. With that, I leaned close to Lucci's ear and whispered in a hushed tone, doesn't it strike you as odd? Why, in this lifetime, has Suyu suddenly decided to play this lover's game with you? And why is your father's conglomerate on the brink of collapse? Lucci's pupils contracted sharply. He stared at me with utter disbelief. It was you bitch. You did this to me on purpose. He struggled, trying to lunge toward me, but the police immediately subdued him and forced him into the patrol car. In this life, he will never have another chance to turn the tables. The Su family, me, Tang Jiwei, will make sure he has a wonderful time in prison. Vengeance is finally mine. I can finally leave that sunless alley behind. A new life awaits. Story 2. After my cousin's death, the husband's hair turned white overnight. He dashed back to the countryside like a madman. He dug up the grave in public, kissed his cousin's rotting corpse, and wailed in anguish, why did you insist on taking the Peking University entrance exam with me all those years ago? If it weren't for this, my family wouldn't have forced me to marry you. Luanyang wouldn't have ended up with that crippled monster either. We wouldn't have been separated for over 20 years. I can't stand my husband's baseless accusations and erratic behavior. She bluntly asked for a divorce, yet my husband still murdered me in my sleep without justification. Luanyang is dead. We, the ones truly responsible, deserve to die. In our next life, I swear I'll never abandon her for career prospects and choose you again. The next moment I opened my eyes, drums thundered and firecrackers roared. It was the day Peking University's admission letter arrived in our village. I saw my 18-year-old husband being swarmed by the crowd, while my timid cousin peeked from the sidelines. Stride forward, Lu Mai. If you leave for Peking University, what will happen to my cousin Zhou Nuanyang? 1. Nuani, are you telling the truth? The aunt asked with a shocked expression, under the watchful eyes of the entire village. I pointed out Lu Mai and Zhou Nuanyang one by one. Auntie, the people involved are right here. Why ask me when you should be questioning them? Both Lu Mai and Zhou Nuanyang were barely 18 or 19 at the time. The young man was as handsome as a slender silver birch. The woman was as delicate as a dewy hibiscus. Their striking appearance stood out vividly among the plainly dressed villagers. They were so perfectly matched that anyone could see they were made for each other. In their past lives, they loved each other desperately yet pretended to be strangers, deceiving me for years. Since they're in love, can't I just let them be together in this lifetime? Unexpectedly, Lu Mai's face darkened as he spoke with grave seriousness. Zhonwani, what exactly are you trying to achieve by fabricating baseless rumors and tarnishing your cousin's reputation? These words left the villagers both bewildered and astonished. Zhou Nuanyang's face instantly paled, her expression crestfallen and dejected. Noticing this, I deliberately raised my voice. Lu Mai, you and Nuanyang have been together for so long. Wouldn't this joyous occasion be perfect to make it official? The aunt's eyes gleamed shrewdly as she shook Zhou Nuanyang's arm beside her. Darling, when did you start dating Lu Mai? With him getting into Peking University, our family's fortunes are about to change for the better. Zhou Nuanyang looked up at Lu Mai with longing in her eyes, seeing Lu Mai frown and press his lips together. She could only muster a feeble rebuttal. Mom, that's completely unfounded. I'm not with Lu Mai at all. Auntie's lips parted slightly as her face fell instantly. The crowd began to accuse me. Zhonwani, you're the village college graduate. Why would you spread baseless rumors about your cousin and Lu Mai? How could someone educated be so malicious, deliberately ruining her own cousin's reputation? I don't think so. Could this be a misunderstanding? Amidst the buzzing crowd, I laid out the evidence point by point. Don't doubt me, folks. There's a tree in the marsh reed beds by the village entrance with Lu Mai and Zhou Nuanyang's names carved on it, and that heart-shaped stone pendant Nuanyang wears around her neck. Didn't Lu Mai pick it from those very marshes and gift it to her? Lu Mai, stop hiding it. That handkerchief in your pocket was clearly stitched together by Nuanyang from fabric scraps at the textile mill, wasn't it? Xiaoliuzi beside Lu Mai swiftly reached into his pocket. Sure enough, he pulled out a handkerchief embroidered with the character Yang. As for Zhou Nuanyang's heart-shaped stone pendant, too many people have seen it with their own eyes. Hiding it is pointless. A few kids in the crowd of villagers burst out laughing too. We've actually seen carvings on trees when playing in the tidal flats. One was the character Lu, the other Yang. Don't believe us? We'll show you. Got it. Every dating spot and love token got thoroughly exposed. Lu Mai and Zhou Nuanyang had no defense left. The aunt burst into happy tears. Nuanyang, why so shy? This is absolutely wonderful news. Your late father must be watching over you from heaven. How else could our son-in-law get into Peking University, the finest in the land? With that, she seized Lu Mai's arm. Come along, son-in-law. Let's go home and discuss the wedding arrangements with your parents. Zhou Nuanyang looked deathly pale, while Lu Mai appeared stiff and uncomfortable. These two people in love looked as if they were being forced to accept their own relationship. How absurd. Too, in my past life, my husband Lu Mai and I were the only two students from our village who got into top-tier 985 universities during the millennium year, both admitted to Peking University. Later, we went to Beijing together for college and stayed to work after graduation. We fell in love, got married, and started a family. We've never had a single argument in half a lifetime. Our children often say, Mom and Dad are living proof of what true love looks like. Even I had to admit, with a husband like this, what more could a woman ask for? But this idyllic life shattered in our 20th year of marriage. The tragic news came from the countryside. My cousin Zhou Nuanyang had committed suicide by drinking pesticide, unable to endure her husband's domestic violence any longer. Zhou Nuanyang and I had been distant since childhood, and even after all these years in Yanjing, we never reconnected, just one of life's ordinary regrets. But when my husband came home from work and accidentally saw the funeral notice, he froze as if struck by lightning. He locked himself in the study all night. When he emerged, his jet black hair had turned completely white. The kids and I were completely stunned, but Lu Mai clamped down on my wrist like a vice. Come on. We're going back to the countryside together to apologize to Nuanyang. It wasn't until we returned to the countryside that I understood what those words truly meant. Lu Mai vanished the moment he stepped off the long-distance bus. When I finally tracked him down after an exhausting search, he was in the middle of nowhere, having dug up his cousin's grave and smashed open the coffin lid with a rock, cradling his long-deceased, rotting cousin in his arms. He wailed hysterically while kissing her decomposing lips. The corpse was so badly decomposed that the lips couldn't withstand the pressure. They just peeled right off. My stomach churned violently as I doubled over, retching uncontrollably. Lu Mai, drenched in putrid corpse fluids and gory debris, advanced toward me with bloodshot eyes. Half a corpse's flaking lip still clung to his mouth. He roared at me like a deranged madman. Why did you insist on applying to Yanda University with me back then? If it weren't for that, my family wouldn't have forced me to marry you. Nuanyang wouldn't have ended up married to that crippled monster. We wouldn't have been separated for over 20 years. As the nauseating stench of decay drew near, I didn't hesitate another second. I bolted straight for the village. 3. It only became clear to me later, my husband and his cousin had secretly been in love during their youth. But when Lu Mai had to leave for Peking University, they were forced into a long-distance relationship. Over their 4 college years, Lu Mai gradually drifted apart from Zhou Nuanyang, feeling time slipping away. Zhou Nuanyang eventually married Li Hui, who had been left disabled and disfigured in a traffic accident. Under his family's arrangement, Lu Mai chose to marry me, someone from his same social circle. Only 20 years later, when Zhou Nuanyang passed away, did Lu Mai suddenly feel his heart shatter with overwhelming regret. Though Lu Mai had regrets, he shamelessly pinned the blame on me instead. In the following days, Lu Mai's hysterical rumor-mongering twisted the village's public opinion in bizarre directions. Relatives and friends all pointed fingers in accusation. Ugh, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. How could you kill your own cousin Zhou Nuanyang just to keep Lu Mai for yourself? I tried reasoning with them. Didn't Lu Mai break up with Zhou Nuanyang on his own? Wasn't it Zhou Nuanyang's own choice to marry someone else? How much do any of us really know about their relationship? Why blame me for a relationship that ended over 20 years ago? Gung Suehua, a village woman close to Zhou Nuanyang, confronted me directly. If you hadn't gone to Yanda University with Lu Mai and stolen him away, How could Nuanyang have ended up marrying that cripple Li? Oh Nuanyang, your life has been nothing but tragedy. How could Zhou Nuani steal the man you loved and get a happy family, while you were driven to suicide? This is utterly unfair. In the end, even your own parents inexplicably turned against you. This is all because you insisted on going to Yanda University. Had you given that opportunity to Nuanyang back then, none of this would have happened. What a wonderful girl Nuanyang is. It's all because of your competitive nature. Getting into Yanda University was one thing, but why did you have to steal Lumai away? I tried to explain. Dad, I earned my place at that university fair and square. Why should I give it up to Zhou Nuanyang? She can't even recognize the English alphabet. How could she possibly graduate if I handed it to her? Mom, when Lumai and I were discussing marriage, did he and Zhou Nuanyang lose their tongues? If they'd spoken up just once, I wouldn't have spent half my life as someone's half-baked consolation prize. But my parents cared more about their reputation in the village, constantly blaming and berating me. Life in the village became unbearable, and my disappointment with Lumai reached its peak. I finally asked him for a divorce. Little did I know, my last night in the village, a shadowy figure pressed a pillow over my face. Nuanyang is dead. We, the ones responsible, deserve to die, in the next life. I swear I won't abandon her for my future and choose you. Next time around, don't you dare stand in my way. What a pity. I don't know why I was reborn, but it seems I can't avoid seeing them forever. Since I've been given a second chance, I'm curious to see just how steadfast Lumai's love for Zhou Nuanyang can be without me in the picture. 4. Seizing the moment while Lumai and Zhou Nuanyang stood there dumbfounded, jostled by the beaming aunt and villagers eager for drama. We were herded toward the Lu household. I immediately rushed home and drafted a whistleblower letter. The next day, under the pretense of thanking my mentor, I returned to school, actually planning to mail it at the county seat. Midway, the hot-headed Lumai stopped me in my tracks. Zhou Nuani, when exactly did you find out about us? After Zhou Nuanyang's death, Lumai not only exhumed the grave but also haunted the village like a restless ghost, revisiting old haunts daily, one by one. Long-buried secrets came to light. How could I not know? Right now, I couldn't be bothered to waste words on Lumai. Even a dog knows not to block the road. How shameless can you be, manhandling your future sister-in-law in public? Lumai blurted out without thinking. What sister-in-law? There's nothing between me and Zhou Nuanyang. If anything, who gave you the right to meddle and force me together with your cousin? I shot Lumai a bewildered look. Wasn't he head over heels for Zhou Nuanyang? How could you say such a thing? Lumai is clearly restless and agitated now, unable to conceal even the slightest thought. I deliberately spoke with righteous indignation. And here's my cousin Nuanyang risking her job to steal premium fabric from the textile mill just to make you a shirt. How can you claim nothing's going on when you're still wearing clothes she personally tailored for you? A flicker of realization crossed Lumai's angry gaze. You even know about that? I arched an eyebrow. What else? Our families may have drifted apart over the years, but blood runs thicker than water. My cousin's household may have lost its man, but if you think you can play the modern-day chin shimmy, remember the Zhou family still stands. Lumai was not just shocked, he was downright furious. He assumed Zhou Nuanyang was a sieve who'd leaked everything to me. Once the seed of suspicion is planted, all you need to do is wait for it to take root. Sooner or later, it'll bear unexpected fruit. I took the chance to step on his foot. Get lost. If you dare speak to me in that accusatory tone again, I'll tell Aunt Ichu who objects to this marriage. Let's see how your family handles her tantrums then. With that, they stormed off. 5. After mailing the letter at the county office, to make the act convincing, I actually went back to my alma mater. The school remained as dilapidated as I remembered, worn down by years of neglect. Moss covered the steps, and vines wrapped around the squat teaching building. My beloved teacher was both thrilled and delighted to see me. This marks the dawn of the new century, and what a surprise, our students have achieved record-breaking admission rates to top-tier universities. Zhou Nuani, you've outdone yourself with that stellar acceptance to Peking University. I nodded with a smile. Getting into Peking University truly ranks among the brightest moments of my life. Reflecting on my 20-year marriage in the previous life, I wasn't perpetually shackled by domestic drudgery. I've achieved remarkable success in my career. I'm also blessed with 2 brilliant children. Before Lumai murdered me in his deranged state, my eldest son had already been admitted to a prestigious 985 university in Beijing, and my daughter was preparing for her college entrance exams. They both had exceptionally bright futures ahead of them. My research is on the verge of a major experimental breakthrough, yet Lumai single-handedly destroyed it all. My oblivious mentor unwittingly praised Lumai in front of me. Lumai is an exceptionally bright young man. You two topped this year's exams and both got into universities in Beijing. My heart gave a faint tremble. all the richness and brilliance of Lu Mai's life began with that single step he took into Yanjing. Since I've been reborn. Merely tying him to Zhou Nuanying isn't nearly enough. Since he's destroyed my life, I should destroy his in return. That's only fair. 6. Li Hui, my mentor suddenly called out to a tall, straight-backed man downstairs. I followed his gaze downward. The man had striking features, thick eyebrows, large eyes, and undeniably handsome. There was an uncanny sense of familiarity about him. The man hurried upstairs as our mentor introduced us. This is Li Hui, my nephew. He just got discharged from the military and now runs a transport business in town. And Zhou Nuani, our school's rare talent who made it to Peking University this year. I looked at Li Hui in surprise. The profession and background match perfectly. Isn't he the man Zhou Nuanying married in her past life? After Zhou Nuanying's death, I occasionally crossed paths with this man from a distance in the village. Back then, he walked with a limp and bore extensive burn scars on his face. Not a trace of his former handsome features remained. Tagging along was a 6-year-old boy with a perpetual runny nose. Rumor had it he'd adopted his fallen comrade's orphan because he couldn't father children himself. Li Hui noticed me staring at him. What? Do I have 3 heads and 6 arms? Why the death stare? I choked. Do you know Zhou Nuanying? Li Hui grinned. Never heard of her. But I just met someone called Zhou Nuani. I must apologize for my clumsy words, though it's unclear how Li Hui became such a wreck later. But now that Zhou Nuanying and Lu Mai's relationship is exposed, she probably won't marry Li Hui after all. When bidding farewell to my mentor actually wanted Li Hui to give me a ride, worried that an early encounter between Li Hui and Zhou Nuanying might disrupt my plans. I politely declined. 7. I didn't get home until dinner time. My father sat stiffly at the dining table, his face dark with suppressed anger. She couldn't really yell at me since I'd just gotten into Peking University. Mom jabbed her finger against my forehead. You know the rule, see through but don't speak up. Look at the mess you've caused. Turns out, just as expected, chaos erupted when Aunt brought a crowd to the Lu household yesterday. Aunt wanted Lu Mai and Zhou Nuanying to get engaged before he leaves for Peking University. The Lu family absolutely lost it upon hearing this. Lu Mai's college admission was nothing short of a miraculous blessing for the Lu ancestors. How could they possibly agree to let their son marry some unrefined village girl who lost her father before he even went to college? The Lius accused Zhou Nuanying of shamelessly seducing their college-educated son. The aunt, widowed young, had a fiery temperament. She immediately retorted that Lu Mai was no college student when he took advantage of an innocent maiden. How could you turn your back on old friends the moment you got power? After all that yelling, we still couldn't reach any conclusion, so we just called it quits. My aunt came to our house first thing this morning. She begged my father, the village chief, to step in and settle the matter. I feigned shock and said, no wonder Lu Mai came to confront me first thing in the morning, blaming me for forcing him together with Zhou Nuanying. So the Lius had already planned to take advantage of my cousin without taking any responsibility. My father viewed Lu Mai, who got into Peking University, through rose-tinted glasses of academic excellence. Don't talk nonsense. Someone who got into Peking University like Lu Mai would never do such things. I'm fanning the flames, Dad. The college entrance exam only filters IQ, not character. If he's so focused on getting into college, why would he provoke Zhou Nuanying for no reason? If he truly liked Zhou Nuanying, why did he insist on applying to Peking University for his college entrance exam? But he was clever enough to carry on a secret romance, sweet-talking the girl into keeping it hush-hush. Later he'd leave for college out of town, gone for 3 or 4 years straight. If the girl couldn't wait for him, he'd just blame her for changing her affections. If she did wait, he'd simply send a breakup letter about their incompatibility, wouldn't even bother showing up in person. After all, no one in the village ever knew they were in love. The more my father listened, the deeper his frown became. My mother gasped softly. Nuanying was such a fool. When Lu Mai told her to keep quiet, she actually endured it all these years. I smirked contemptuously, given Lu Mai's current attitude. Can you honestly say he hadn't planned his escape route from the very beginning? If my cousin encountered such a situation, she'd rather die than speak up. It would only ruin her own reputation. And after all this, you're blaming me for spelling it out. Hearing this, my father could no longer stay seated, and I actually thought Lu Mai was decent since he got into Peking University. How could he harbor such intentions? With that, my dad headed for the door. My mom asked, "It's late, where are you going?" My father said angrily, "To the Lius. As village chief, I won't tolerate this modern-day Qin Shimi and Qin Xianglian drama playing out in our village and becoming gossip for outsiders." 8. My father intervened in his capacity as village chief. After several rounds of mediation, the Lu family finally relented. they'd have Lu Mai get engaged to Zhou Nuanyang before he left for college. In rural areas, early marriages were common. Holding wedding banquets before obtaining marriage certificates happened all the time. To the Lius, this engagement was just a way to silence the village gossips, and clearly understood the risk of backing out, so under the pretense of engagement, she demanded 30,000 from the Liu family. Back in 2000, 30 grand was a small fortune in our village. The Lius and aunt ended up brawling over that money again. The parents from both families were arguing at the Liu household. The young couple also ran outside the village to quarrel. Lu Mai confronted her. I already agreed to get engaged to you. Why are you still forcing my family to come up with 30,000 yuan? But my mom said, now that you've gotten into Peking University, 30,000 yuan will be nothing to you. Zhou Nuanyang's voice trailed off as tears streamed down her face like pearls, but Lu Mai showed little sympathy. He was utterly exasperated. Do you think attending Peking University means I don't need to eat, drink, or maintain social relationships? I don't think I truly matter to you at all. Otherwise, why would you always blindly follow whatever your mother says? I specifically told you to keep this confidential, and now everyone knows. This must have been prearranged between you and your mother, wasn't it? Zhou Nuanyang protested loudly. I tried to keep it under wraps, but even kids spotted your carvings. What was I supposed to do? Lu Mai threw caution to the wind. Zhou Nuanyang, you're just a factory girl from trade school who landed a Peking University grad like me. Must be your lucky day. Afraid this golden goose might fly away. Trying to chain me down with 30 grand. Zhou Nuanyang had endured enough accusations and humiliation these days. In the end, the most devastating blow came from a lover's deliberate slander to shirk responsibility. How could you say such horrible things to me? Just like my mother warned, you never intended to take responsibility for me. Lu Mai had no desire to explain anything anymore. Think whatever you want, you've got your 30 grand safe and sound, with nothing to lose either way. But me, not marrying you would make me heartless, while marrying you would turn me into a laughingstock. Zhou Nuanyang, I'll never outsmart you. Lu Mai finally stormed off without another word. Zhou Nuanyang stood rooted to the spot like a wooden post. I watched coldly as the two of them made such an ugly scene. My greatest fear was that Lu Mai would choose his career over Zhou Nuanyang again in this lifetime. In my panic, I rushed back to town to mail a letter. 9. Within days, the village loudspeaker Gun Tsuehua was shouting through the streets, trouble, Lu Mai and Nuanyang are fighting on the mud flats. Nuanyang's been pushed into the river by Lu Mai. Hearing this, crowds of villagers rushed toward the tidal flats, and what they saw was, Nuanyang lay drenched on the riverbank as a tall, handsome driver knelt to perform CPR on her. The TV crew vehicle I'd requested via county letter happened to be crossing the tidal flats just then. They were originally coming to the village for an interview. Spotting the rescue scene, they immediately started filming. Zhou Nuanyang, who had nearly drowned, came to weakly just as the crowd had gathered. Her tearful doe eyes instantly zeroed in on my father through the crowd. Uncle Village Chief, I can't marry Lu Mai anymore. That bastard pushed me into the river just to keep the 30,000 yuan betrothal money. Wah. Meanwhile, several village youths were already dragging over a mud-caked Lu Mai from a distance. Lu Mai wore a strange expression, his eyes wide with shock as if completely bewildered by what was happening. The moment he arrived, he kept asking, what year is it, little six? Why do you all look so much younger? Little six replied with visible irritation, cut the amnesia act. Lu Mai, you're in deep trouble now. Lu Mai stumbled forward as Xiao Liuzi shoved him. Only then did he spot Zhou Nuanyang's disheveled figure on the ground. He exclaimed in surprise, Nuanyang, you're alive. Zhou Nuanyang's body trembled uncontrollably. She immediately hid behind the driver who had given her CPR. Lu Mai, stay away. I won't marry you anymore. I never want to see you again. Lu Mai stood frozen, his face ashen like he'd been struck by lightning. From my vantage point on the elevated roadside, I finally got a clear look at the rescuing driver's face. It was none other than Li Hui. 10. Fate will always bring destined people together. The one who shouldn't have returned did. How amusing. I'd only meant to write to the TV station's relationship mediation show, inviting them to our village for an interview. Broadcasting this improbable match between a Peking University scholar and a vocational school factory girl would make perfect sensational content. News spreads like wildfire, with public opinion mounting. Lu Mai had no choice but to take responsibility. Even if Lu Mai genuinely went to college, he'd likely break off the engagement within 3 or 4 years. With this program airing, Lu Mai can forget about using marriage as a social ladder in the future. I have my ways to cut off all his escape routes. To everyone's shock, Lu Mai pushed Zhou Nuanyang into the river to break off their engagement. The TV crew were quick-witted. They realized a crime of passion, attempted murder, had occurred in the chaotic scene. Before the police arrived, they quickly interviewed and filmed both the drowning Zhou Nuanyang and her rescuer Li Hui. Finally, holding a microphone, they cautiously approached Lu Mai. Lu, is it true you and Ms. Zhou were secretly dating before the college entrance exams? Lu, did you accidentally push your girlfriend Ms. Zhou into the river just now? Lu, may I ask what exactly you plan to do when inviting Miss Zhou to this deserted beach today? Lu Mai must have just been reborn, his mind still in complete disarray. When he finally processed the reporter's question, he suddenly became furious. Did I ever consent to being filmed? What are you shoving that camera in my face for? But Xiao Lu and the others held him down, until the police arrived. The victim, Zhou Nuanyang, suddenly burst into tears with a loud wail. Uncle officers, you've got to save me. It was him. Lu Mai deliberately lured me to the mudflats and pushed me into the river from behind. Lu Mai tried to kill me. Lu Mai turned deathly pale, after miraculously getting a second chance at life. I was publicly accused of murder by my naive first love from my past life. The emotional devastation was beyond words. 11. The police took everyone involved in for questioning. Xiao Lu and the others, burning with curiosity and indignation, rode their motorcycles to the county police station to follow the developments. They ended up giving me a ride too. They were chattering away during the trip. Do you think Lu Mai did it on purpose? No way. He got into Peking University with a bright future ahead. Why would he do that, honestly? Zhou Nuanyang has no self-awareness at all. How could a college student and a factory girl possibly be a match? Exactly, getting engaged is one thing, but demanding 30,000 yuan on top of it. The guy driving me, Xiao Lu, suddenly chimed in. Lu Mai was never decent to begin with. What proper high school senior sneaks around dating? Mwani got into Yen University too. Why isn't anyone making such a fuss about her being compared like this? I said darkly, don't lump me in with animals. A group of motorcycle riding guys couldn't help but burst into laughter. I waited until they finished laughing before saying coldly, what's so special about college students? Does being a student give him the right to play with her feelings and push his girlfriend into the river? If Lu Mai actually killed someone and our village raised a murderer, outsiders would laugh us to shame before you even got the chance. Even Little Six and his crew stopped their joking. The world isn't so black and white. Only when personal matters escalate into group interests and conflicts intensify can I achieve the desired outcome. This is exactly what Lu Mai did to me, a public lynching by media. 12. Even if they made it to the police station, the officers wouldn't let Xiao Lu and his crew get any leads. At most, they were just standing around in the lobby, completely shameless. When my dad rushed to the police station and saw them, he couldn't help but frown. What are you doing here? Trying to make things worse. Then he noticed me standing among Little Six and his crew. What are you doing here? I raised an eyebrow. Dad, Lu Mai just tried to kill Zhou Nuanyang. As village chief, you're way out of your depth handling criminal cases now. My father's eye twitched violently. I could tell his heart wasn't doing too well either. The village finally produced 2 Peking University honor students, only for one to instantly become a murder suspect. The public outrage will probably crucify him for arranging this match. My father climbed the stairs with visibly trembling thighs. Coincidentally, Li Hui came downstairs and spotted me. What are you doing here? Are you okay? Chaos erupted on the second floor. It was Lu Mai, freshly reborn, resisting interrogation in an emotional outburst. Dragged by the police, he leaned over the railing and shouted, Li Hui, don't you walk away. Zhou Nuanyang is your wife. How could you not recognize her? I just got back. I don't even know how things ended up like this. I'm telling you, I didn't kill anyone. Then Lu Mai's gaze fell upon me, standing unharmed on the first floor, looking up. Mwani. The terror in Lu Mai's eyes was undeniably real. Mwani, you're still alive. You and Li Hui, why are you together? Neither Li Hui nor I answered him. We just stood there, watching helplessly as the police dragged him back to the interrogation room. My father froze mid-step on the staircase, caught in agonizing indecision. He kept muttering to himself, is this guy out of his mind? 13. Li Hui happened to pass by and rescued them. The police took his statement and let him go. I treated the starving man to a meal at the noodle shop. Li Hui and the guys around me like Xiao Lu were all curious about what happened. So I gave them a quick rundown. When I drove up to the tidal flats, I saw a girl thrashing in the water screaming for help. I pulled over and jumped in just to save her. How was I supposed to know anything about premeditated murder? Just as I pulled that girl ashore, someone started shouting from a distance about people being pushed into the river. That van full of TV reporters appeared out of nowhere again. Tell me, How can there be so many coincidences? I couldn't help but ask. Is this your first time meeting Zhou Nuanyang? Li Hui stared at me intently. Why does everyone assume I should know Zhou Nuanyang? Are you suggesting Zhou Nuanyang and I conspired together? Little Lu blurted out. That's impossible. All eyes turned to Little Lu. Little Lu explained, if Zhou Nuanyang really set this up, her goal would have been to secure Lu Mai's hand in marriage, not nearly drown herself. Now Lu Mai and Zhou Nuanyang are bound to become enemies. Tell me. If Zhou Nuanyang set this trap, what exactly was she after? What was she after? Among all the bystanders, only I had lived 2 lifetimes, and shared the same gender. I think I figured out what Zhou Nuanyang was really after. Finally, Li Hui gave us a resigned smile. I just happened to be passing by and did what anyone would do. As for the truth, that's for the police to figure out. Then he asked, by the way, that lunatic Lu, what's his name? He couldn't be the other top student from your village who got into Peking University, could he? Xiao Liuzi and the others forced awkward yet polite smiles. Now the whole village had become laughingstocks to outsiders. 14. The TV crew that happened to be at the marshland worked overnight to produce a special report, which aired during prime time on local television. The program meticulously reconstructed the incident's timeline. That day, Zhou Nuanyang was the one who first asked Lu Mai out to the tidal flat for their date. She mainly wanted to clarify the matter about the 30,000 yuan and their engagement. But then, Lu Mai had some inexplicable impulse. Seizing the moment when Zhou was admiring the view by the shore, he suddenly approached and embraced her from behind. He sneered, want that 30 grand so badly? Let me burn some for you in the afterlife. Then he shoved Zhou Nuanyang into the rushing tidal currents. Zhou Nuanyang knew how to swim, but the marsh waters beneath were choked with thick aquatic weeds. Zhou Nuanyang drowned because his feet got tangled in the water weeds. After pushing someone into the water, Lu Mai heard the cries for help but walked away without looking back. Had it not been for truck driver Li Hui passing by, Zhou Nuanyang would likely have died underwater. Going through this ordeal changed everything between them. Zhou Nuanyang insisted that Lu Mai deliberately tried to drown her, yet Lu Mai was behaving like a complete lunatic. He kept rambling nonsense, constantly mixing up people's backgrounds and relationships. By his own admission, he'd killed someone, but claimed it wasn't intentional. The victim was his wife, but not Zhou Nuanyang. It was me, Zhou Nuani. The desperate Lu family immediately requested a psychiatric evaluation. The diagnosis confirmed Lu Mai indeed suffered from persecutory delusions. The case ultimately ended in a settlement. Zhou Nuanyang received 30,000 yuan in compensation, and after getting the money, she moved out of the village with her aunt. Lu Mai was transferred from detention to a psychiatric hospital. Peking University would never admit a potential criminal with a history of mental illness. I became the only top student from our village to enter Peking University at the turn of the millennium. In this lifetime, Lu Mai gained neither career prospects nor love. Instead, he was utterly disgraced and became a complete madman. 15. The moment the program aired, it caused a local sensation. Outraged crowds stormed the Lu family's doorstep in the village, pelting rotten eggs and spoiled vegetables, even smashing several windows. The villagers were hurling all sorts of curses. My father sighed heavily, his hair graying from worry. How could the TV station air this program without any warning? The Lu family finally produced a Peking University graduate. And now this, sigh, I asked. Dad, the Lu family finally produced a suspect. What's the point of blaming the TV station? My father shot me a glare. My mother immediately came over and pulled me aside. Don't upset your father. Sure, you got into Peking University, but you'll inevitably settle down in a big city. The Lius have a son. Even if he stays in the city like you, at least their grandson will return to the village. The Lu family scholar is the only one who truly belongs in this village, so that's how it is. That's why my father always favored the Lius. 16. After I left for college, my father stepped down as village chief. Truth be told, the villagers would have gladly kept him in the position. He felt utterly humiliated. Had he not pushed for Lu Mai and Zhou Nuanyang's engagement, Lu might never have turned violent toward Zhou, eventually driving himself to a complete mental breakdown. My father secretly blamed me too. He thought if I hadn't exposed Lu Mai and Zhou Nuanyang's secret affair, none of the subsequent chaos would have happened. But he wouldn't dare say it outright. After all, his daughter getting into Peking University became his only remaining claim to prestige after retirement. Saving face matters more than anything to him. 17. 8 years later, after graduating with a master's from Yenching University, I joined a multinational corporation. During the Canton Fair, I traveled south to Guangzhou on a business trip. To my surprise, I ran into Zhou Nuanying at a five-star hotel. She'd filled out gracefully, dressed in elegant luxury with striking charm, holding a child in her arms. She was asking the receptionist something. Tell me now, did Mr. Wu in room 3030 bring some floozy here? The receptionist looked uncomfortable and said it was confidential. I put on my sunglasses and slipped quietly down the hallway. I then switched to a room on a different floor of the hotel. To be honest, I didn't want anything more to do with Zhou Nuanying. That slash of fiery red on her lips always brings back some nauseating, frenzied memory. In this lifetime, many people's destinies have taken different turns. Li Hui settled down in his hometown, got married and had children, now a promising young manager at a transport company. His life has been smooth sailing all along, unlike his previous life where some accident left him disfigured, lame, and prone to domestic violence. The Zhou Nuanying we saw today seems to have married well, though their marriage isn't perfect. At least the wealthy businessman she married provides her with a comfortable material life, compared to ending up as an impoverished village woman trapped in domestic violence who ultimately commits suicide by drinking pesticide. This is already much better. I'll be staying in Guangzhou on business for a while longer. I lost count of how many days had passed. There I was again in the hotel lobby, running into Zhou Nuanying by chance. This time, she wore no makeup and wasn't holding the baby. Oversized sunglasses hid the swollen bruises on her face. She was on an emotional phone call with her husband. Why don't you and that homewrecker just drop dead outside? How dare you lay hands on me over a few words? Watch out, hope you crash that car of yours. The venomous outburst drew sideways glances from bystanders. Ironically, the husband she cursed, Manager Wu, happened to be a mid-level executive at one of our company's supplier partners. During the Canton Fair, as the contractor, he treated our business trip team to dinner. The follow-up collaboration fell through because Mr. Wu was actually in a car accident and tragically became paralyzed from the waist down. Zhou Nuanying and I never crossed paths again. I begun to vaguely discern the underlying patterns behind why certain things are destined to happen. No matter how the world changes, human nature remains fundamentally the same. 18. On the day I left Guangzhou, devastating news from home reached me. My father had a stroke. The doctors said he might not last the week. I hastily changed my flight and rushed straight to the hospital, covered in travel dust. The hospital room held not just my family, but also the guilt-ridden Lu family members. My father's stroke was caused by his bleeding heart. He'd visited Lu Mai at the mental hospital and got scared into it. Right until his last breath on that hospital bed, my father kept waiting for me. His face was twisted in agony. He seemed to have something to say to me, but not a word came out. Though I resented him, he valued his pride above all else his entire life. Yet when he closed his eyes for the last time, a dull ache still lingered in my heart, in my past life. My father at least lived for another decade or so, yet because of Lu Mai, my life came to an abrupt end. 19. Through the hospital bars, I stared at this disheveled madman before me. I asked in a low voice, Lu Mai, why did even you get reborn, rebirth? Lu Mai pondered my words with a thoughtful expression before letting out a weary chuckle. I thought it was just a parallel timeline where life took a different course. Never imagined it'd be an actual rebirth, darling. He still dares to call me by that name from our past life. This is nothing but pure provocation, so I mercilessly tore off his mask, playing the madman for 8 straight years. Now that's what I call dedication. For all 20 years of our marriage, you've been acting the part of the perfect husband and father, but thanks to your acting skills, I finally figured it out. In your past life, you were just trying to play the fool to dodge a murder conviction. What I don't get is, if you loved the perfect persona you crafted so much, why kill me? Lu Mai flashed a taunting smile. Because I loved Zhou Nuanying. She's dead, and I regret it. I believe you tore us apart, so I killed you before taking my own life, just to atone to Nuanying. Ha, is that reason not good enough for you? After being reborn, I see Lu Mai and Zhou Nuanying's relationship with crystal clarity, just some shallow, fragile puppy love. Hardly any real depth or substance to it, I scoffed coldly. We've both lived 2 lifetimes now. Who are you trying to fool with this act? Lu Mai's smile vanished. He began unleashing 2 lifetimes worth of pent-up resentment toward me without holding back. I embezzled company funds. Just a small amount. A few $1,000,000. That's all. I told you I wanted to sell our 2 properties, but you wouldn't agree. In our 20 years of marriage, I've earned most of the money in this household. You're just holed up in your lab all day doing research. What do you know about the humiliation of bowing and scraping to clients out there? We both graduated from Yanda, yet you get to enjoy the cushy stability of a government job while I'm out here weathering the storms and swallowing my pride. Why shouldn't I use this money? I couldn't help but sneer. when we got married, we agreed on our career paths. One would stay in the system, the other would work in the private sector. This way we'd have both stable household income and flexibility to adapt to economic shifts. For 20 years of marriage, with my less demanding job, I shouldered the burden of managing our household and maintaining our daily life, freeing Lumai to focus entirely on building his career without domestic worries. Yet in the end, he blamed me for all the grievances, setbacks, and frustrations he encountered in his professional life, as if his own career dissatisfaction were somehow my fault. I asked, "You killed me, just because I stopped you from selling our home." Lumai couldn't even meet my gaze, resorting to loud, indignant shouting to mask his guilt. "I'm being threatened by debt collectors every day. They're trying to ruin my reputation. Now that Zhou Nuanying is dead, I'll take you back to the countryside and make you experience what it's like to be chased by curses and public disgrace. Wife, I know you won't obey me willingly. I just want you to listen. How dare you even mention divorce to me?" Lumai is nothing but a paranoid, pathological narcissist with histrionic personality disorder. Perhaps in our past life, what he truly wanted to destroy wasn't me, but the fact that I dared to defy him. I furrowed my brows, exposing further the hypocritical selfishness that defined his very nature. "You claim you tried to kill me simply because I wouldn't obey you. What about Zhou Nuanying, that first love of yours? She obeyed your every word, didn't she? What kind of ending did she get after believing your promises?" Lumai was instantly rendered speechless. 21. Lumai, you're utterly shameless. Lumai chuckled darkly. What's shame compared to kissing Zhou Nuanying's corpse? But who'd have thought, even after all that commotion, I still failed the psychiatric evaluation. Heh, his laughter gradually faded into weary bewilderment. I never expected to be reborn, the moment I opened my eyes. Everyone was accusing me of murder again. The whole world has changed. Everyone looks so young, yet why has everything turned out completely different? Fate's been too cruel, granting me youth again only to drag me into eternal damnation. What choice do I have? I'll just have to play the madman again. So from his perspective, this was how the absurd story began. Over these 8 years, he must have figured out what really happened between him and Zhou Nuanying. I couldn't help but say, "Lumai, you brought this entirely upon yourself. In your past life, you played with Zhou Nuanying's heart. Even after her death, you desecrated her grave. Now you deserve every bit of Zhou Nuanying's revenge. You've got this coming." Lumai roared at me with his head thrown back. "Zhou Nuanying, if you hate me this much, aren't you the one who's been scheming against me? So I heard it was you who exposed my secret relationship with Nuanying in public." I shared the conclusion I previously reached with Lumai. "Did you really think there were only 2 reincarnators in this world, you and me? Judging by our rebirth timelines, we both died in our past lives before waking up to find ourselves young again. Have you never considered that Zhou Nuanying's suicide was the true origin of everything? She died before any of us." Lumai was utterly shaken. He pondered deeply for a long time before finally piecing together the inexplicable details from these 8 years of rebirth. Zhou Nuanying was reborn too. She returned earlier than all of us. I picked up where Lumai left off and continued speaking. "Zhou Nuanying's greatest regret in her past life was probably never marrying you. After being reborn, when I exposed your secret relationship in public, she still instinctively tried to cover for you, but as circumstances unfolded, she realized everything could truly start anew. Why wouldn't she seize this chance to rewrite her originally tragic fate? She genuinely wanted a fresh start with you, but what did your younger self ever do about it? No matter how the world changes, human nature remains fundamentally the same." Lumai, you never truly respected her from the beginning. You just wanted to play around. After your secret affair came to light, you didn't just belittle and mock her, you even accused her of conspiring with your aunt to blackmail you. You directed the world's worst malice toward her in your treatment. Just like how you're taking out your grievances on me. Zhou Nuanying has lived an extra lifetime after all. She's no naive little flower. After being humiliated like that by you, how could she not turn dark? Human hearts were never meant to be betrayed, nor should they be manipulated. Lumai could scheme against Zhou Nuanying. Zhou Nuanying could play the game just as well. A sudden realization dawned on Lumai. So it's true. I never pushed her into the water. Zhou Nuanying framed me on purpose. The mudflats were so far from the village. What were the odds that Geng Suihua just happened to witness Zhou Nuanying being rescued after falling in? Then went around shouting about it. How could it be such a coincidence that the person who pulled Zhou Nuanying out of the water was Li Hui? That's because Zhou Nuanying had long known the exact time Li Hui's transport would pass by each day. That damn bitch. I'll kill her. That fucking whore. Watching Lumai's impotent rage before me, I laughed louder and more heartily than ever before. Lumai snapped back to reality, his bloodshot eyes burning with accusation. "What are you laughing at? You're just another filthy whore. I spoke with deliberate calm. Lumai, man proposes but God disposes. Had you not been reborn at that critical moment and instinctively feigned madness upon hearing murder accusations, wouldn't this entire case have unfolded disastrously against you? I'm convinced the police must have uncovered something back then, but given Lumai's mental state at the time, his family had already preemptively requested psychiatric evaluation. The judicial system would never entertain such an outlandish explanation as reincarnation. The psychiatric evaluation I failed in my past life, I passed in this one. The case ultimately ended in a settlement with compensation. Lumai got exactly what he wanted. He became a certified madman. 22. Visiting hours are over. Laughing, I walked out. Haha, Lumai. You think I'm the reason you'll never turn your life around? A madman will always remain a madman. Do I even need to bother with this? Lumai understood, and panicked. Mwani, I was wrong, don't leave, tell them I'm not crazy, but I quickened my pace. Lumai suddenly snapped, cursing through gritted teeth. Mwani, don't you want to know what I told your father that scared him into having a stroke? I stopped in my tracks but didn't turn around, saying, no, my father's greatest concern his whole life has been saving face. If he got that scared, it definitely wasn't for my sake, it's because you discovered some dirty secret of his. If it's something that's shameful, then it can't be anything good. My father should face the consequences of his mistakes, just like you. Gone, you lunatic. Lumai sobbed uncontrollably. Warmth, we still have 2 children. How ridiculous. Did he ever consider our 2 children when he murdered me? How could such a despicable man ever be worthy of fathering my children? 22. News of my father's death reached the village. Many mourned with deep regret. The Lu family owes us a debt. Old Lu swore an oath before the villagers. I'll never let Lumai out to harm people again in this lifetime. I'm quite satisfied with this outcome. At the funeral, my father's last act of dignity finally came through for me. 23. I'm back in Beijing. After this year's college entrance exams, the Olympics became the nation's top focus. I'd already saved enough for a down payment on a second ring road apartment during grad school, plus the Housing Provident Fund loan. I bought a house in Beijing over a decade earlier than in my past life. My mom heard about me buying the apartment. My heart's itching to move to Beijing. If you get married someday, I could help take care of your kids. Wouldn't you want that? In my next life, I swear I won't abandon her for career prospects and choose you. Mom, don't worry, I won't get married. If I ever have children, I'll go abroad. Dad earned so much respect during his lifetime. You should stay in the village and enjoy it to the fullest. This wandering scholar star was born to roam the world. I've got all my future days planned out. In a year, I'll buy the dip in the stock market. In a few years, I'll go all in on crypto and major internet giants. The future outlook is extremely bullish. Life is a long journey, and there are still so many things I want to do. The end. Next story. On the day my childhood sweetheart got engaged to someone else, I was involved in a plane crash. The person who came to collect my body was Chen Yizhua, whom I once called a hateful person. He dropped everything and chose to commit suicide, to go to hell with me. In my new life, I knocked on Chen Yizhua's door in the heavy rain. In his astonished eyes, I pulled his sleeves. Chen Yizhou, shall we get married? The man's eyes suddenly turned red, but he shook my hand off indifferently. Is it fun to tease me? That night, I was shivering in the rain. Chen Yizhou opened the door with a murderous look on his face, sighed, and pulled me into his arms. Shintang, I'm just a dog you raised. When I opened my eyes again, I was awakened by a cool breeze. I got up and closed the window. The weather has just begun to turn to autumn. And I have returned to the time before my childhood sweetheart Su Chen got engaged. My phone rang several times. It was a message from Su Chen. Tang Tang, I'm having dinner with Shu Yue tonight. You can come over too. I know you feel uncomfortable, but I have decided to marry her. We will meet each other in the future. I don't want the relationship between the 2 most important people in my life to become so strained. Please give me some face and have dinner together tonight, okay? Looking at the messages popping up on my phone, I sneered. In my previous life, I had always been devoted to Su Chen. He promised me that we would get married after graduating from college. I never worry that Su Chen will go back on his word, because I know that with our childhood sweetheart relationship, he will marry me one day. But later, a girl named Shu Yu appeared in Su Chen's life. She always liked to tease Su Chen, often making him blush. I would also kiss his cheek and say, "You are so cute," when he is angry. I watched Su Chen fall step by step. He said that after Shu Yu appeared, he finally understood what it felt like to be in love. He said she was his light and his salvation. He also said that he would never marry anyone except Shu Yu in this life. He forgot everything he had promised me and cruelly and decisively made me accept the reality. In my previous life, on the day he and Shu Yu got engaged, I was on a business trip in Los Angeles when I heard the news. I was devastated. I immediately turned down all my work and bought a plane ticket to rush back home. Maybe it was God's will that I couldn't stop them from getting together. That day, the plane I was on crashed. At the moment when the cabin was falling rapidly, I felt more regretful. I don't think I should die like this. What I am even more unwilling to accept is that I lost my life in vain for a man who didn't love me, too. After I died, my soul has been wandering around the place where the plane crashed. The media reported the incident as soon as possible, and the only person who came to collect my body was Chinishwa, the person I once hated the most. He rushed to the scene with red eyes. He let his hands dig into the ground until it was bloody, but he still refused to stop. Chinijo kept calling my name. The overwhelming grief made his eyes go dark and he passed out. Later, he committed suicide by taking pills in his villa. When they were found, the best time for rescue had already passed. The suicide note in the study only had one sentence: "Don't be afraid, Tang Tang, I'm here to accompany you." Maybe Chinishwa's obsession was too deep, and I came back to life again, feeling the fresh breath. I just felt like it's been a long time. This time, I decided to take good care of Chinishwa, this man who once gave his life to me. He loved me so much. But I was blind in my previous life and let him down. Thinking of this, I opened the chat interface on my phone, replied to Suchin with a short message: "I have no objection to whoever you marry, just don't contact me anymore." After sending this, I quickly turned off my phone. It was getting dark outside the window. At this point, Chinishwa should have finished get off work. When I changed my clothes and went out, the weather news was on TV. From 18:30 tonight, there will be heavy rainfall in the city. Please bring rain gear when going out. I didn't care and turned off the TV. When I got off the taxi, it started to drizzle. Relying on my memory, I searched for Chinishwa's address in the villa area. In my previous life, I only heard him mention it once. When I reached the door, I swallowed nervously. Then, he raised his hand and pressed the doorbell. Even when I heard that Su Chen and Shu Yu were engaged in my previous life, my heart had never beaten so fast. This is the first time I've seen Chinijo again after so many years. The doorbell rang several times before footsteps were heard from inside. After opening the door, Chinishwa and I looked at each other. He was wearing a gray home suit, and his black hair made him look a little cute. Seeing that it was me at the door, his eyes jumped. Shintang. Under his gaze, my face gradually turned red. It was raining heavily, and drops of rain were hitting the steps under my feet. I took a deep breath and grabbed Chinijo's sleeve in the astonished look in his eyes. "Chinijo, shall we get married?" 3. The air suddenly became quiet. Chinijo's eyes suddenly turned red. He looked at me steadily, as if trying to read something from my face. After a long while, Chinijo finally laughed at himself. "Shintang, is it fun to play tricks on me?" He turned to leave, but I pulled him back again. When I met Chinijo's indifferent eyes, I just felt extremely uncomfortable. So this is what it feels like to be ignored. That's how I treated him in the past. I once called Chinishwa a disgusting person. I once cried hysterically in front of him, begging him not to appear in my life again. Chinishwa must have felt very uncomfortable at that time, but I was still feeling sad for Su Chen, and my mind was entirely on another man. I deserved to die. Thinking of this, my eyes became more determined. "Chinijo, I know you don't believe me now, but I am sincere about getting married. I want to be with you." Chinijo's eyes deepened and he lowered his eyelids. The moment I closed the door, I heard Chinijo's cold voice: "It's raining, let's go back early." Just like that, Chinishwa locked me out. The heavy rain roared and hit me in protest. I tried my best to move inside, but half of my body was still wet. In the early autumn weather, the rain brings a chilly chill. I stood there, not moving a step. After closing the door, Chinishwa forced himself to go to the study to continue working. He has been doing this for 2 days in a row. The project had reached its final stages and he had to keep an eye on it, but the woman outside the door made him upset and unable to concentrate. She suddenly came to him today and said she wanted to get married, which really scared him. In the past, such words would never come out of Shintang's mouth. At one point, Chinijo thought he was suffering from lovesickness and was hallucinating, but seeing her determined eyes, Chinijo was inevitably moved. He hardened his heart and forced himself to stop caring about her. 10 minutes passed. The surveillance on the computer showed that she had not left yet. Even though she was shivering with cold, she still waited stubbornly for him to come out. "It's so persistent." Chinijo shook his head helplessly, but finally softened his heart. He went to the bathroom to get a large clean towel and walked quickly to the entrance. I was standing at the door, shivering all over with cold. Just when I thought Chinijo would ignore me, the door opened. A clean towel quickly blocked my view. Then, I felt myself being pulled into a warm embrace. Chen Yizhou's hoarse voice sounded in my ears. Shintang, I'm just a dog you raised. I've decided not to like you anymore. But I can't control my heart. My heart trembled violently and I opened my mouth to say something. The next second, she was picked up by the man and the rain was blocked outside the door. 4. Chen Yizhou put me on the sink in the bathroom. His eyes were cold. Take a shower first. After saying that, he went to the bedroom and got me a set of men's pajamas. This is new and has never been worn. After you wash up, come out quickly, watching him busying around. I nodded obediently. The bathroom door was closed by Chen Yizhou. I looked at the furnishings in the bathroom and it was obvious that no woman had ever been here. This realization made me inexplicably excited. When I dried my hair and walked out, Chen Yizhou was sitting in the study looking through some documents. Seeing me come out, he waited for me to come over. Drink this. Chen Yizhou raised his hand and handed me the prepared cold medicine. The cup was still warm. And I drank it all in one gulp. Chen Yizhou always has endless patience when it comes to me. Why couldn't I see his good side before? By the way, this is the first time I see Chen Yizhou working seriously. He is completely different from the impression I had of him. I hesitated for a moment, thinking that I might as well not disturb him for the time being. As I was walking towards the living room, Chen Yizhou stopped me. Are you serious about what you just said? I turned around and found Chen Yizhou was also looking at me. His dark eyes showed no emotion. I'm serious, I answered like this. As he finished speaking, his eyelashes trembled, feeling the hesitation emanating from Chen Yizhou. My heart ached. The next second, I walked to Chen Yizhou. She held his hand tightly in his blank eyes. I meant every word I said today. Chen Yizhou, I want to marry you. Is that okay? This was the first time I proposed to a man, and I felt inexplicably nervous. Even the way he looked at Chen Yizhou became somewhat cautious. He looked at me with his peach blossom eyes, as if he was afraid that all this was fake. Tang Tang, prove it to me. Prove that you are willing to marry me. How do you want to prove it? After he finished speaking, the man's Adam's apple rolled. Kiss me. I didn't say anything, just looked at Chen Yizhou quietly. There was a possessiveness towards me and a hint of fear in his eyes. He was panicking, afraid that I was just acting on impulse. The next second, without a second thought, I leaned over and kissed him on the lips, just as expected. Chen Yizhou's lips are soft and kissable. As if he sensed my initiative, Chen Yizhou was a little bit unbelieving. I took a step forward and kissed him, and he gently took a step back. If he took a step back, I would pursue him without hesitation. After feeling my determination, Chen Yizhou sighed and took the initiative. He pulled me onto his lap and showered me with kisses. Late at night, emotions stir. Chen Yizhou carried me to the bedroom. His hoarse voice was particularly sexy in the middle of the night. Tang Tang, it's not too late for you to regret now. I didn't say anything, but just gently unbuttoned his clothes. Use practical actions to show Chen Yizhou that I have no regrets. There was a strong possessiveness in his eyes. Tang Tang, I will definitely die on you. I buried myself in his arms shyly. After all the trouble, I finally fell asleep from exhaustion. 5. When I woke up the next morning, Chen Yizhou was gone. I walked into the living room and saw a prepared breakfast on the dining table. There was a pink sticky note stuck to it. Tang Tang, get up and remember to eat breakfast. I have an important meeting this morning. I will come back to pick you up after I finish my work. We will go to get the certificate. When I saw the words, get the certificate, I couldn't help blushing. Chen Yizhou is really efficient. Get married when you say you will. Without any delay. I sat down in a good mood and ate the fried eggs Chen Yizhou made for me. When I thought of him, the corners of my lips curled up slightly. While it was still early, I hailed a car and went straight home. I bought this house a few years ago. Although it's not big, it can be considered a home in this city. When I went downstairs with my ID, Chen Yizhou was waiting for me in the car. I'll call a moving company later to move all your stuff to my place. He buckled my seatbelt expertly, his tone leaving no room for doubt. Seeing that I nodded without objection, Chen Yizhou chuckled. He suddenly came closer and looked at me with his peach blossom eyes. Are you ready to be Mrs. Chen? My heart skipped a beat. Why didn't I realize before that Chen Yizhou really likes to play tricks on people? I pursed my lips and kissed Chen Yizhou on the lips without hesitation. The man's smile suddenly froze, and a suspicious blush appeared on his fair face. Chen Yizhou coughed twice and returned to his seat, sitting in the passenger seat. My smile gradually grew. A pure-hearted man like Chen Yizhou is so easy to control. After completing a series of procedures, Chen Yizhou seemed to have settled down. He held my hand and called me wife over and over again. I responded to him over and over again. Chen Yizhou's eyes turned from joy to redness. At the moment of tears, he kissed my lips passionately. From now on, you are mine, Tang Tang. Do you know how happy I am? Do you know how happy I am? I know. during so many dark days, he was always watching me silently from behind, watch me cry, watch me laugh, watch me chase another man. Now, it's my turn to love him well. 6. Late at night, after I came out of the shower, I turned on my cell phone. There were dozens of missed calls, all from Su Chen. The latest piece of information just now. Tang Tang. Are you hiding from me? Tell me where you are now. I rubbed my brows with a headache and planned to tell him about the marriage. I heard footsteps behind me, and Chen Yizhua picked me up sideways. I screamed and my phone accidentally fell on the bed. The man chuckled and didn't care. Wife, it's late, time to go to bed. The next second, his lips covered mine. Chen Yizhua seems particularly anxious tonight. The words I spoke were swallowed up in the kiss, as they were making love. The clear sound of a cell phone ring filled the entire bedroom. Chen Yizhua pretended not to hear and kissed her even more deeply. I was a little anxious and wanted to answer the phone. However, Chen Yizhua grabbed my chin domineeringly and forced me to accept him. Tang Tang, pay attention, okay. But the bell rang and stopped and rang again. There is a tendency to keep calling if you don't answer. After a long moment, Chen Yizhua cursed inwardly. With an unsatisfied look on his face, he took my cell phone from the end of the bed. When Chen Yizhua saw the two big words Su Chen, his face darkened. The tone was also much colder than before. Looking for you. I looked at Chen Yizhua and pressed the answer button. The voice on the other end of the phone was more urgent than I expected. Tang Tang, I know you are angry with me. Please stop being angry, okay? I haven't been able to contact you these past 2 days. I'm very worried. Are you home? Can I come find you now? I pursed my lips. No need, I'm not home now. Su Chen immediately responded, it's so late. Where else could you be if you're not home? I'm here with Chen Yizhua. The air suddenly became quiet. Su Chen's disbelieving voice came from the receiver. How could you? 7. Before I could say anything, I felt the air around me get several degrees colder. Chen Yizhua raised his eyes slightly and said lightly, Tang Tang, didn't you tell him that we are married? Looking at Chen Yizhou's slightly disappointed eyes, my heart tightened. Subconsciously, I wanted to explain to Chen Yizhou. No, I just wanted to tell him, even though I couldn't get a response. Su Chen kept calling me on the other end of the phone. Chen Yizhou's eyes darkened and he kissed my slightly open lips without hesitation. Tang Tang, let me tell you. What method should I use to defeat my love rival? Su Chen was originally very anxious. He had imagined 10,000 reasons that he could not accept. Why is Shen Tang at Chen Yizhou's place so late at night? But when he heard a slight gasp from the other end of the phone, Su Chen felt like he was struck by lightning. At that moment, Su Chen felt as if his world was collapsing. He once thought that as long as he looked back, Shen Tang would always be waiting for him there, but now, she is in the arms of another man. She doesn't like him anymore. This realization made Su Chen tremble all over, and his blood froze. The next second, he heard Chen Yizhou's voice on the other end of the phone. Next time, remember not to disturb our married life at night. Su Chen, don't you have a wife? After saying this, Chen Yizhou decisively hung up the phone, but Su Chen was still in shock for a long time. Shen Tang and Chen Yizhou got married. No way, this is impossible. Tang Tang clearly hated Chen Yizhou so much before. She clearly felt disgusted if she looked at Chen Yizhou for any longer than necessary. Why marry him now? The more Su Chen thought about it, the more upset he became, so he simply swept everything on the table to the ground. Inside the villa's bedroom, after a lot of trouble, Chen Yizhua held me in his arms and said nothing. I felt a little flustered, but I still propped myself up and looked at him. There was an emotion in Chen Yizhua's eyes that I couldn't understand. I leaned over and slowly smoothed his frown. Chen Yizhou, are you unhappy? The man's eyes moved slightly, and his hands around my waist tightened. Tang Tang, you still like Su Chen, right? 8. Chen Yizhou's words made my eyes suddenly red. No, I really don't like him anymore. I was just about to tell him, but you interrupted me. Chen Yizhou, the person in my heart now is you. Chen Yizhou looked at me, after a long time. He finally smiled. Okay, I understand. The more he did this, the more flustered I felt. I would rather Chen Yizhou scold me or vent his emotions to me. Unfortunately, he didn't. I went forward and hugged his neck. Honey, do you believe me? Despite the sweet words, Chen Yizhou still couldn't stand this kind of attack. He hugged me lovingly. I trust you, Tang Tang. I just care about you too much. I greedily hope that you have always been mine alone. His eyes were red. And he held my hand to his lips tenderly and kissed it gently. I know it all. His fear and vulnerability were all revealed to me. All I can do is give him a sense of security. My married life with Chen Yizhua is happier than I imagined. He never comes into contact with the opposite sex and has a strong sense of propriety. Even a small word from me can be kept in his heart. My friends all say that I am lucky to have a husband like this, to the extent that I looked at Chinijo busy in the kitchen wearing an apron, and suddenly I felt something was unreal. Walking into the kitchen, I hugged Chinijo from behind. He paused while cutting vegetables and chuckled again. "You seem to be particularly clingy to me these past 2 days." After saying this, the corners of his lips slightly raised. "It's a good thing." I tightened my hands around Chinijo's waist, feeling a little distressed. "If this makes you happy, I'll do more of it in the future." Chinij was back stiffened for a moment, and then he turned around, his eyes darkened and he looked at me with his peach blossom eyes. "Really, will you love me more and more?" At this moment, Chinijo was like a cautious child, trying to please others. I hugged his neck and stood on tiptoes to place a kiss on his forehead. "Yes, Chinijo, I will love you more and more." Chinijo's eyes darkened and a gentle kiss fell, a touch of warmth. 9. On Friday night, Chinijwa was out for a social event. I originally planned to go home, take a shower, watch TV series, and wait for Chinijwa to come back. Unexpectedly, I received an invitation to a high school reunion when I was getting off work. This party was initiated by our high school class monitor. When I arrived at the dining area, Suchin was standing at the door waiting for me. He looked delighted to see me coming. I didn't intend to pay attention to him and just walked past him, unexpectedly. Suchin eagerly grabbed my arm. "Tang Tang, are you really married to Chinijo? Tell me, this is fake, right? You obviously hated Chinijo the most in high school, so why did you marry him?" Suchin's words sounded like a question, but also like he was talking to himself. He had a forced smile on his face, waiting for my answer. I shook my hands and took a step back. "Do you think I should lie to you?" "Why?" "Because I love him." As soon as he finished speaking, I saw Suchen's eyes turned red instantly. "No way, you can't possibly love him. You clearly said that you would marry me after you graduated from college." "Tang Tang, look at me. The person you love is me, right?" Suchen's eyes were bloodshot and he grabbed my shoulders tightly. I frowned in pain, and Suchen let me go as if he had just woken up from a dream. "Suchen, who was the first to break our oath? Do you want me to say more? Has it never happened that you and Shuyu are going to get married, or do you want both Shuyue and I? I'm telling you, you'd better give up on this idea." Seeing my firm tone, he hesitated to speak. I glanced at him and walked forward, but Suchen's voice came from behind. "Shuyu and I have broken up. I was bewildered before, and that's why I hurt your heart. Tang Tang, I regret it now. You and Chinijo divorce, and we can get back together." "Okay," I sneered but didn't stop. Why does Suchen think that as long as he looks back, I can always wait for him here? Everything he did now was just the result of his ridiculous possessiveness. When I loved him with all my heart, he felt confident. "So you can love others passionately." When I turned around and married Chinijwa, Suchen couldn't stand it anymore. He couldn't stand others invading his territory and taking his things. To put it bluntly, in Suchen's eyes, I am just an insignificant object, but Chinijwa loves me with everything he has. He is fragile and sensitive. I will never hurt him again for Suchen. 10. The first time I met Chinijo was in my second year of high school. After school, I helped the teacher mark test papers. When I came out of the teaching building, the sunset in the sky was just right. On the other side of the basketball court, stood a dirty young man. He was as worn out as a stray dog on the roadside, with his eyes lowered as he was being scolded by his father. I paused. Although it was far away, the middle-aged man's shouting and cursing was unbearable to hear. The young man had an indifferent expression and didn't even lift his eyelids. The next second, the middle-aged man slapped the boy hard in the face. "Asshole, don't think that just because your mother is gone, you have the right to do whatever you want. If you cause trouble in school again, I won't let you go." After he finished speaking, the middle-aged man quickly disappeared from my sight. Wherever I looked, I saw the boy curled up and squatted down. I didn't say anything and walked quickly towards the school gate. With every step I took, it felt like something was calling me from behind. I held on to the shoulder straps of my school bag tightly and finally stopped. I walked up to the boy and handed him a clean handkerchief. "There's blood at the corner of your mouth. Are you okay?" At that time, Chinijwa looked up at me for the first time. I was stunned. Those were a pair of very clean and clear eyes. He took the handkerchief and said thank you. Later I learned that Chinijo's mother died when he was very young. He was extremely rebellious during his adolescence, and even refused anyone to enter his world. Even so, every time Chinijo was called to the police station as a parent, his father would still rush to the school and apologize to the teacher with his head down. Since then, there has been a little tail behind me that I can't get rid of. Chinijo would always follow me silently and send me home. He would also stand up for me and fight for me when I was bullied. During that time, the rumor in school was that Chinijwa liked me. I finally couldn't stand it anymore. One time, I stopped Chinijwa in the dead of night. "Just tell me what you want." At that time, Chenijo chuckled, with a bitter smile. Shintang, all I want is you. What about you? Can you give it? That day, I cursed Chenijo harshly and called him a pervert. I cried and begged him to stop following me and stop appearing in my world. I said, Chenijo, you really make me sick. As they looked at each other, the light in Chenijo's eyes gradually faded. Later, I started to avoid him and tried my best to create opportunities to be with Suchen. However, even Suchen couldn't ignore Chenijo's presence. That's why he promised me that we would get married right after graduation. At that time, I looked at Chenijo, who was hidden in the light and shadow. He agreed to Suchen very deliberately and loudly, and Chenijo never appeared in front of me again. 11. Pulling myself away from my memories, I was already standing at the door of the box when I pushed the door open. The scene was very lively. Suchen and I went in one after another, and everyone greeted me warmly. My former deskmate Xiaoyun pulled me over to sit down. Everyone was talking at once, but most of the conversation was just polite greetings. Shintang, you have been too low-key these years. You have never been at our gatherings. Yes, get together with us more often. We are all old classmates. I chuckled, busy with work. If Xiaoyun hadn't kept urging me this time, I naturally wouldn't have come. I never liked this kind of occasion. Since Suchen entered the box, he has been chatting with the squad leader. His eyes would fall on me from time to time, making me feel a little uncomfortable. Sat there for about 10 minutes. I picked up my purse and went to the bathroom. While I was putting on makeup, my cell phone rang with a message. Chenijo, Tang Tang, are you having a party near the company? Me, how do you know? By the way, he sent Chenijo a puzzled expression. I got a quick reply. I installed a positioning system in your phone. I twitched my lips. This man wants to keep track of my whereabouts at all times. When we returned to the box, they were playing Truth or Dare. I sat next to Xiaoyun and watched them have fun. Unexpectedly, the next second, the bottle mouth on the table was suddenly pointed at me. Someone in the crowd asked, Truth or Dare? I pursed my lips and chose the adventure. Several active students immediately became excited. Like this. You and Suchen stand face to face, and put your arms around his neck. Say cheesy sweet nothings to him and kiss him on the cheek affectionately. As soon as he finished speaking, a burst of booing sound was heard. Everyone looked at Suchen and me with mischievous expressions, especially those who usually get along well with Suchen. The meaning in their eyes is more obvious. I frowned and immediately denied it. Change it. I really can't do this. Suchen's smile froze in an instant. Are you going to resist me this much even in games? I didn't say anything, and everyone started to persuade me. No way, no way, Shintang. Are you so insolent? Hey, didn't you used to be with Suchen? Yeah, I also remember that you and Suchen had a good relationship back then. Did you break up? It's just a kiss on the cheek. There's no need to be so disappointing, right? Among those who mocked me, there were also some girls in my class. Xiaoyun was indignant for me. Isn't that a bit too much? What if Tang Tang is married now? Wouldn't you be destroying someone else's family by making such a fuss? One of the girls rolled her eyes. You also said it's just a possibility, so what if she doesn't get married? Xiaoyun was so angry that her face turned red and her neck became thick. I patted her hand soothingly and looked at everyone. I am married. My husband is more sensitive. He will be unhappy if I do this. 12. After I finished speaking, all eyes in the box were focused on me. Suchen's face turned blue and red. He stood up in shame and anger, and suddenly pulled me up. Then he leaned close to my ear. Tang Tang, do you really have to embarrass me in front of so many people? I was stunned. Then Suchen pulled my hands up and placed them on his neck. I struggled, but he locked my hands tighter. Just when I was getting angry and embarrassed, the door of the box suddenly opened. Chenijo stood at the door with a stern face, staring straight at Suchen and me. Who are you? Some people in the crowd looked at Chenijo with displeased expressions. The next second, Chenijo looked at him coldly. This look is full of oppression. The originally noisy box suddenly became quiet. Chenijo stretched out his long legs, walked over and pulled me into his arms. He touched my red wrist with concern. Does it hurt? I shook my head and smiled at Chenijo. He ruffled the strands of hair on my forehead. I have a bad temper, and my biggest weakness is protecting my wife. Shintang is now married. Please be careful when socializing in the future. If you offend my wife like this again, I will let you know the consequences. Chenijo spoke, but his eyes were looking at Suchen. The two men's eyes met in the air. Under the strong sense of oppression from Chenijo, Suchen still looked away in embarrassment. After saying that, Chenijo took my hand and left the box. Sitting in the passenger seat, I squeezed the seatbelt nervously. Although Chenijo had no expression on his face, he was driving very fast. I wanted to say something, but was ultimately scared back by his gloomy face. Late at night, Chenijo held me tightly in his arms. He pulled the quilt closer to me to make sure I wouldn't catch a cold. I sniffed. Chenijo, I want to talk to you about what happened tonight. It's okay, go to sleep. The words that were about to come out were interrupted softly. Chenijo kissed my forehead, his voice flat. I wanted to say something, but I could hear the sound of even breathing above my head. Forget it, let's talk about it tomorrow. 13. I had a very long dream in which a man was chasing me. When I was startled awake, I subconsciously touched my side, but he woke up instantly when he touched the cold quilt. Chenijua is not next to me. I was startled, wearing slippers. He hurriedly opened the bedroom door. When Chenijo was found, he was sitting alone in the audiovisual room. There were no lights on inside, and even the movie was playing on silent mode. I fumbled to turn on the light, and at first glance saw the embarrassed and pitiful Chenijo. He sat down on the carpet obediently. It seemed that he had maintained this posture for a long time. When he looked at me, his eyes were bloodshot. My heart skipped a beat and I walked over quickly. Can't sleep. Chenijo looked up at me, his voice a little hoarse. Then why don't you turn on the sound? I was afraid of disturbing you. I lowered my eyelids and held Chenijua's hand. In the past, Chenijua's big hands were always warm and dry, but tonight his hands were exceptionally cold. I took a blanket from the sofa and covered him with it with heartache. Next time you can't sleep, be sure to call me. Can I accompany you? Chenijo nodded obediently. Good, Tang Tang. I will do whatever you say. He held me in his arms, but his shoulders were shaking slightly. Chenijo, do you have anything to say to me? I leaned on his shoulder and patiently guided him. I knew a long time ago that Chenijua had severe paranoia. Once he has taken someone into his territory, he will never let go easily. After a long while, Chenijo's trembling voice sounded, Tang Tang, I'm sorry, although I know there's nothing between you and Su Chen, I still can't control my irritation. Even seeing you two standing together is unbearable for me. Before I got you, I thought that as long as you were willing to be with me, I would be willing to do anything. Then you married me, but I coveted your heart. I wanted your body and soul to belong to me. I know I'm being greedy, but I really can't help loving you. Every day I want you to stop talking to any other man in the world more than ever before. I'm really afraid that this morbid love will scare you. After he finished speaking, Chenijua choked up. His tears fell on my shoulders and burned my heart. Chenijua has always been a sensitive child. He lives in a dark world. He would be afraid of losing me, afraid of scaring me. Even though he was so unhappy about what happened tonight, he didn't dare to blame me. This kind of Chenijua really makes me feel sorry for him. 14. I stepped out of his arms and gently wiped Chenijua's tears. He looked at me cautiously, as if I were a child who had done something wrong. Tang Tang, please don't leave me. Okay. In my impression, Chenijo never cried even when he was slapped by his father. Such a man was so fragile that he cried in front of me. I looked at him and kissed him on the lips without hesitation. Chenijo was stunned for a moment, then opened his lips to let me go deeper. After the kiss, I played with Chenijua's messy hair. Chenijo, you can actually tell me, no matter what it is, whether you are happy or unhappy, I hope you can share it with me. From the day I came to you, I was destined to be with you forever. I will never give this kind of feeling to anyone again, so, you can ask me again and again, I will never tire of responding to you. I love you very much. After saying this, Chenijua's tears fell even harder. He pulled me into his arms. Tang Tang, don't lie to me. If you lie to me, I'll go crazy. In the end, it is unclear who kissed whom first. Chenijo just eagerly tore my lips. It seems that only such strong possession can prove that I love him. An hour later, Chenijo carried me to the bathroom to take a shower. I'm extremely sleepy. He kissed my lips enthusiastically. Tang Tang, do you love me? At the same time, even if I am extremely sleepy, I will still cooperate and say, Chenijo, I love you so much. After getting the answer, Chenijua carried me back to the room. He continued to hold me in his arms and fell asleep contentedly. 15. Time flies, and in a blink of an eye, Chenijua and I had been married for more than half a year. I've been feeling nauseous quite a lot lately. When the relatives had not yet arrived, Chenijua took me to get checked out. When the results came out, a kind middle-aged female doctor was sitting in front of me. Congratulations, you're pregnant, 4 weeks pregnant. The baby is growing very healthy now. Chenijo and I looked at each other. I could read the deep joy in his eyes. Being a father for the first time, Chenijua took care of every detail. He patiently asked the doctor about the taboos for pregnant women. In order to take better care of me, Chenijua hired an aunt. Most of the time, he works at home. Even my nutritious meals would be prepared by Chenijua himself. During the 2 months when I had the worst morning sickness, Chenijua lost even more weight than I did. If I must say, Chenijua is almost a perfect husband. Seeing how hard it was for me to be pregnant, he hugged me with heartache. this is the only one, I don't want to have any more children. I patted his head with a smile. Honey, do you want a boy or a girl? At that time, he gently took me into his arms. Boys and girls are fine, as long as it's yours. I like it. I smiled and didn't expose it. The last time he went to buy a crib, Chanijwa bought a lot of little skirts for girls. I wanted to return it, but Chanijwa refused. We don't know the gender of the baby yet. What if he can't wear it when the time comes? It's okay, just keep it as a souvenir. A few months later, the child born to Chanijwa and me was finally born. It's a girl. The moment he came out of the delivery room, Chanijwa's eyes were red with tears. He kissed my sweaty forehead. Tang Tang, thank you for your hard work. He named our child Chin Songyu. He said that his daughter must look more like me. Many years later, I leaned in Chanijo's arms. Why did you like me in high school? Because you are pretty. I laughed and patted Chanijo's shoulder. Be serious. Chanijo kissed my forehead. My mother died when I was 8 years old. After she discovered my father's mistress, she lost her mind and died in a car accident. At that time, I always hated my father and even felt that life was meaningless. I'm dirty, I'm a gang fighter, I'm uneducated and I don't know how to do anything. It wasn't until later that you appeared in my life that I first had the idea of protecting a girl. Everyone is afraid of me. But you choose to get close to me regardless of everything. Listening to Chanijo recalling the past, I sighed softly. If your mother knew that you are married now and have your own children, I know you feel uncomfortable, but I have decided to marry her. Chanijo looked at the stars in the sky. Yeah, she'll be very happy. For a long time afterwards, Chanijwa just hugged me quietly. After a long time, he suddenly called me, Tang Tang. Thank you for choosing me. I moved in his arms and looked up at him. Chanijo, I should be the one thanking you. Thank you for loving me for so long. From the initial unexpected encounter to now when the dust has settled, Chanijwa walked towards me with determination at every step. This world is brilliant and great. Chanijwa stood in the light and shadow and stretched out his hand to me. He smiled and said to me, Tang Tang, welcome to my world. Story 2. Huyen came to the Welfare Institute to choose a younger sister. All the girls crowded around, praying to be selected. Only I hid in the wardrobe and fell asleep. I thought I could get rid of the fate of becoming the adopted daughter of the Hua family in my last life and eventually becoming Huyen's wife, live a new life freely and happily. But when I woke up, I saw Huyen standing in front of the wardrobe door. He smiled and asked me, Luo Yang, would you like to come home with me? 1. When I saw Huyen's face in front of me, I thought I was still in the nightmare just now. It wasn't until the director called me with a stern face, Luo Yang, why did you hide here and fall asleep? That I woke up and realized that everything in front of me wasn't a dream. Seeing me standing there in a daze, the director reached out and pulled me out of the wardrobe. She tidied up my collar for me and pushed me in front of the Hua couple, saying, you fell asleep. And young Master Hua asked us not to wake you up. Everyone has been waiting for you for a long time. Huyen, who was mentioned, was standing in front of the Hua couple, with a faint smile on his face as he looked at me. At this moment, he was a bit different from the Huyen in my memory who was always cold to me. He took the initiative to greet me. Luo Yang, hello. I don't know why, but when the words Luo Yang came out of his mouth, there was an indescribable strangeness. I frowned and avoided his gaze. In my heart, I was wondering why they had to wait for me when they could clearly choose someone else. Wait for me? What for? The director bent down and explained to me. They want to adopt you. Yang will have a home, with a father, a mother, and an older brother. The director, who usually didn't smile much, now showed me a rare smile. I think she was probably happy for me. For the children in the Welfare Institute, being adopted was a stroke of luck. But the director didn't know that I had been reborn. I already knew that Huyen would come to the Welfare Institute to choose a younger sister today, so I deliberately hid in the wardrobe. Yang, would you like to come home with us? Aunt Hua took my hand and said gently, Yan has always wanted a younger sister. You can be his younger sister in the future. This scene was exactly the same as in my previous life. Scenes from my previous life flashed through my mind like a slideshow. I immediately pulled my hand back and looked up at the director, saying, Director, I don't want to be adopted by them. As soon as I said this, everyone was surprised. The one who reacted the most strongly was Huyen. He frowned and asked me, why? Because I don't want to be your younger sister. Although I had refused him, there was not the slightest trace of anger on Huyen's face. Instead, his tone became even gentler, with a hint of subtle doting. Then instead of being my younger sister, just come back to the Hua family with me and live together. Is that okay? The director secretly tugged at my sleeve, but she still couldn't stop me from refusing Huyen again. No, I thought Huyen would give up, but when the director asked the Hua couple if they wanted to choose another girl, Hui Yan suddenly said loudly, "Mom, I want her," he said, "only she looks the most like my younger sister, too, in my previous life." Hui Yan chose me among many girls because I looked somewhat similar to his younger sister. At that time, when I knew I had been selected, I just thought that God really favored me. I was taken back to the Hua family and renamed Hui Yang, and I got my own room in the huge villa. Even though that room didn't really belong to me, I was still satisfied, Mrs. Hua said. The children from the Welfare Institute inevitably have a narrow mindset and can't behave or speak appropriately. So I got rid of my old habits and gradually became less and less like myself. Mrs. Hua was strict with me. I had to practice the piano for more than 12 hours every day, even though the teacher clearly said that I had no talent for learning the piano. Mrs. Hua still accompanied me to practice the piano every day, but some things can't be forced. Sorry, Mom, I still can't play well. Every time I apologized, Mrs. Hua would look at me with more doting and comfort me. It doesn't matter. As long as Yang Yang works hard, you will definitely be able to play well in the future. Later, I learned that playing the piano was the hobby of Mrs. Hua's deceased daughter. The reason why Mrs. Hua treated me like this was just to find the shadow of another person in me, but I didn't care about that. A fish lacking water doesn't care whether the water it gets is clean or not. It just wants to survive. Water is to a fish what love is to me. It's enough just to have it. I studied the piano even harder and tried even harder to please Mrs. Hua. We became more and more like a real mother and daughter, until at Hui Yan's engagement banquet, he was drugged, and I happened to break into his room. Mr. Hua fainted from anger when he saw me and Hui Yan. Mrs. Hua slapped me in the face, saying, "I shouldn't have brought you to the Hua family in the first place." Hui Yan looked at me in silence, with emotions in his eyes that I couldn't understand, but I thought he was probably regretting it too, regretting choosing me as his younger sister. I don't know what happened. I didn't drug my brother. I tried my best to explain myself, but no one believed me. So later, whenever Hui Yan betrayed me countless times and betrayed our marriage, he would say, "Back then, you didn't hesitate to drug me just to marry your own brother. Now all of this is your retribution." Hui Yan hated me, so after we got married, he always liked to slap me in the face in public and embarrass me. Many people in the social circle were betting on how long my marriage with him would last. At most a year. Once the child is born, Hui Yan will kick her out. But unfortunately, the result was beyond everyone's expectations. Hui Yan and I were entangled for 19 years, even after I died. The words "wife of Hui Yan" were still engraved on my tombstone, Luo Yang. Tell me why you don't want to be adopted by the Hua family. After Hui Yan left with his parents, the director called me to her office. I was silent for a long time before casually finding an excuse. "I don't want to leave you and everyone else." The director sighed and advised me to think about it carefully again. I knew she was doing it for my own good and hoped that I would have a good life in the future. But I didn't want to make the same mistakes again. And I didn't want to have anything to do with Hui Yan anymore. However, a fire at night shattered all my plans. 3. Did you set the fire? In the hospital, I looked at Hui Yan coldly and questioned him. No, Hui Yan quickly explained. The fire department has already investigated and found that the fire was caused by the aging of the electrical wires. After saying this, he smiled self-deprecatingly. Yang Yang, you think too poorly of me. In this life, I have only met him 2 or 3 times. But Hui Yan's attitude towards me was indescribably familiar. "I just want to help you. As long as you promise to come home with me, I will help the director pay off all the treatment expenses." The Welfare Institute caught fire last night, and the director was severely burned while trying to save us. I snorted coldly and said sarcastically, taking advantage of someone's distress, "Do you consider yourself a good person?" Hui Yan didn't explain anything for himself. He just said, "Yang Yang, it doesn't matter if you don't want to be my younger sister, you can just be fostered in the Hua family." He patiently guided me and made concessions again and again, but I became even more curious. "Why do you insist on me going back to the Hua family with you?" Hui Yan said, "Because my mom misses my younger sister very much these days, and you look a lot like my younger sister. I want to take you home to keep her company." I half believed what he said. After all, Hui Yan's behavior towards me was really too abnormal. I asked him, "Is that all?" Hui Yan hesitated for a moment before nodding. "That's all." Although I didn't want to have anything to do with Hui Yan, the director was still lying in the hospital bed. On the way back to the Hua family, Hua Sun kept talking to me, but I remained silent throughout. He probably knew that he was annoying, so he softened his tone and tried to make up for it. "The Hua family can provide you with better conditions. Anyway, it's better than being in the Welfare Institute." Yang Yang, don't blame me. I'm doing this for your own good. I'm doing this for your own good. Hui Yan also said this to me in my previous life. Hui Yan hated me for most of his life. It wasn't until I was on the verge of death that his attitude towards me softened a bit, but by then, I was already beyond the help of medicine. And only a kitten accompanied me every day, once, on a whim. Hui Yan suddenly came back to the villa to see me and had the cat that I had raised for half a year thrown away. I asked him, why? He looked at me disdainfully and also said, I'm doing this for your own good. At that time, I knew that when he said he was doing it for my own good, he didn't really mean it. This sentence was just an excuse for him to satisfy his own selfish desires and control. Or maybe it was another way for him to torture me. After all, he had always been like this. Whatever I liked, he would destroy. As soon as the car arrived at the Hua family, we saw that Mrs. Hua was already standing at the door of the villa. Hui Yan had told her in advance that he would bring me back, so she had someone clean up the room on the second floor early. Yang, this will be your room from now on. Mrs. Hua took my hand affectionately and asked, do you like it? I lowered my eyes and looked at the hand held by Mrs. Hua for a moment, and then pulled it out. I was no longer the Hui Yan in my previous life who longed for maternal love. Mrs. Hua, this is your biological daughter's room, right? There are a lot of her previous things in the room, and you preserved them very well. I can see that you cherish these things very much. If I live in this room, and I accidentally break these things, you will definitely be sad. I saw that there are guest rooms downstairs. I'll just live in a guest room. Mrs. Hua looked at me and was about to say something, but she was interrupted by Hui Yan. Mom, Yang wants to live downstairs. Please ask the maid to clean it up. I looked at Hui Yan, who was speaking up for me. He probably didn't know that the main reason I didn't want to live on the second floor was that his bedroom was next door. Before Hui Yan's engagement in my previous life, I got along harmoniously with him. Even during my adolescence, when Mrs. Hua asked me, Yang, what kind of boy do you like? I looked at Hui Yan, who had just come back from running, and smiled. I like someone like my brother. This casual joke became the evidence that I drugged my own brother many years later. Every time I explained myself, I didn't drug you, Hui Yan would choke my neck and refute me. You said you liked me when you were 16, you've liked me for so many years, and in the end, you even used the means of drugging me to force me to marry you. Why don't you dare to admit it now? Probably because I was back in this villa. I dreamed of the things in my previous life at night. During the last period of my life, the doctor said, it's not a good idea for you to stay alone like this all day. Call your family and friends to come and keep you company. I don't have any family. As for friends, my best friend before was Hui Yan's fiancé, named Sujiai. Sujiai didn't return to the country until the 5th year of my marriage with Hui Yan. Hui Yan personally went to the airport to pick her up and organized a welcome party for her. Someone deliberately recorded a video of the party and sent it to me. The two of them were sitting in the corner, passionately kissing. I watched that video, which was only a few seconds long, over and over again throughout the night. It was also that night that I made up my mind to give up our second child and filed for divorce from Hui Yan. He asked me, what's the reason? I showed him that video. Hui Yan, I know you had no choice but to marry me back then, but now that Sujiai has come back, it seems that she has already forgiven you, so let's get a divorce and go our separate ways in the future. In fact, I had already proposed divorce to Hui Yan several times before this, but he refused every time. I thought that now that Sujiai was back, he would agree this time, but Hui Yan still tore up the divorce agreement I had prepared and deleted the video on my phone. Yang. I suddenly woke up and slapped Hui Yan in the face. Hui Yan, who looked like a teenager, looked at me with a wronged expression in his eyes. I heard you crying outside the door, so I came in to take a look. After saying this, he turned around and walked out. When he reached the door, he turned back and said, get up and have breakfast quickly, you'll be late for school soon. Just like in my previous life, the Hua family transferred me to Hui Yan's school. When people saw me walking into the classroom behind him, someone asked him, Hui Yan, who is she? Hui Yan introduced me to them. Her name is Luo Yang, and she is currently fostered in my family. I thought vaguely of my past life, before the drugging incident. When Hui Yan introduced me to people, he always said, my sister Hui Yang. I looked at Hui Yan, who was just a step away from me, and suddenly found that he seemed to be different from the Hui Yan in my memory. He was neither like the Hui Yan in my previous life when he was a teenager, nor like the Hui Yan who always took revenge and tortured me later. My heart skipped a beat, and I suddenly thought of something. Hui Yan, just as I called out to Hui Yan and was about to ask my doubts, someone spoke up and called him at the same time as me. Hui Yan looked at me and then looked up at the person behind me. I also turned around. The person standing at the door of the classroom and calling him was Sujiai. Again, wait for me after school. I have something to tell you. After saying this, Sujiai noticed me standing beside Huyen. The way she looked at me wasn't friendly. She sized me up from head to toe as if in a contest. You're the girl who was fostered in the Hua family. After all, she was my best friend in my previous life. Almost as soon as Sujiai looked at me, I felt her obvious hostility towards me. This was completely different from my previous life. In my previous life, after Sujiai knew that I was Huyan's younger sister, she affectionately took my arm, called me Yang Yang, and introduced me to her social circle. But now, her attitude towards me was very similar to the last time I saw her in my previous life. We had a very unpleasant encounter that time. I asked her, the surveillance shows that only you and I entered Huyan's room that day. I didn't drug him, so it was you, right? At that time, I couldn't figure it out. She liked Huyan so much, so why did she ruin their engagement banquet? Her name is Luo Yang. Huyan answered for me. Sujiai looked at me, gave a perfunctory smile, and didn't say anything more. After that, I sat in my seat, but I noticed that Sujiai kept looking back at me, even though I felt strange in my heart. I had to ignore her, look away, and force myself to listen to the teacher carefully. 5. In my previous life, I wasn't good at studying. However, Mrs. Hu didn't mind my poor grades. It seemed that the worse I did in exams, the happier Mrs. Hu became. She always said, Yang Yang is getting more and more like Nan Nan. She also didn't like studying. A parent's love for their child means planning for their long-term future. Which mother in the world would hope that her daughter is just a beautiful but useless person? Ultimately, she never really regarded me as her own daughter. To her, I was probably just a consoling toy. In this life, I don't want to be like I was in my previous life, being a stand-in for someone else's daughter in the first half of my life and ending up as a useless canary, dying in depression in the second half. So studying is my only way out, but studying isn't an easy thing either. After realizing that I really couldn't understand the knowledge in these books, I got up somewhat frustrated. Huyen, who was talking to someone, noticed my movement. He turned his head and asked me, "Where are you going?" I replied impatiently, "To the toilet." In my memory, the girls' toilet in high school was always crowded during breaks, but today it was surprisingly empty. It wasn't until I pushed open the toilet door that I sensed something was wrong. Several girls inside almost simultaneously turned their heads and looked towards me at the door. The person closest to me was Sujiai. She threw away the cigarette but in her hand, glanced at the girl who was being held down on the ground and covered in dirty water by them, and then walked towards me. She smiled and said, "Just kidding with her. Just for fun, you won't tell Huyen, will you?" I looked at the cigarette but on the ground and suddenly realized that I never really knew Sujiai. Otherwise, how could I not know that she smoked and bullied her classmates when she was in school? After thinking for a while, I said, "I'm not that familiar with Huyen, really." Although Sujiai asked this, her expression clearly softened a lot. "Aren't you living in his house?" I met her gaze and said, "Just living in his house, but not familiar." Sujiai nodded, "That's good." After saying that, she quickly left with the others. After they all left, I took a look at the girl on the ground. I quickly looked away and walked into a cubicle. When I came out again, that girl was standing with her back to me next to the mop sink. She was only wearing a vest on the upper part of her body, and her original shirt was being rinsed under the faucet. Perhaps hearing the sound of me opening the door, she quickly wrung out the shirt, put it on directly, and then ran out quickly with her head down. As she passed by me, I suddenly reached out and grabbed her. The girl looked up at me in confusion, and I looked at her too. After a long silent looking, I remembered that her name was Chenling. I took off my coat and threw it to her. "Your shirt is wet." "Wear mine." Chenling lowered her head again and refused. "No need, the wet shirt is very transparent. Your vest inside will be visible." My words made Chenling's ears turn bright red. She somewhat embarrassedly raised her hand to cover her chest and hesitated for a long time before taking my coat. Seeing Chenling walk into the cubicle to change clothes, I secretly breathed a sigh of relief in my heart. Actually, I'm not the kind of person who likes to meddle in other people's business. In my previous life, not long after I transferred to the school, Chenling committed suicide by jumping off a building. The school's explanation was that it was due to family factors and excessive study pressure, but now it seems that perhaps the reason for her suicide wasn't that simple. After all, it was a young life. "Thank you." Chenling thanked me after changing her clothes. The words "you're welcome" were on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed them back. After thinking for a while, I asked Chenling, "Your grades should be very good, right?" I remembered that Chen Ling was the top student in the grade before she jumped off the building. She was stunned for a moment and then nodded. Not bad, Chen Ling. I looked at the coat on her. I lent you my coat. Can you help me with my studies? I didn't give her a chance to refuse at all and continued. After the quiz, we will change seats according to our grades. At that time, we can be deskmates, which will be convenient for you to help me with my studies. Chen Ling hesitated for a long time before agreeing to me. After school, Huyen stubbornly insisted that I go back with him in the car. As soon as I got in the car, Su Jiai stopped him. Yen, can we talk? I wasn't interested in their business and didn't want to eavesdrop, but just it was very quiet here, and Su Jiai was emotional and spoke very loudly. Their conversation was carried by the wind and blew into my ears. Su Jiai asked Huyen, did you break up with me because of Luo Yang, Yen? We've been together for so long. As soon as Luo Yang appeared, you mentioned breaking up with me. I can't think of any other reason except her. Huyan's tone was a bit helpless. It has nothing to do with anyone, Xiaoyi. I just suddenly realized that my feelings for you aren't romantic. I've always regarded you as my younger sister. In an instant, I suddenly understood why Su Jiai had been paying so much attention to me today and even kept looking back at me in class. 6. During dinner, Mrs. Hua suddenly said, Yang, I found a piano teacher for you today, starting from tomorrow. Before she could finish speaking, she was interrupted by Huyen. Mom, Yang doesn't like the piano. Don't impose your hobby on her. Mrs. Hua smiled awkwardly but didn't say anything more. I looked up at Huyen, and my suspicion in my heart was further confirmed. In this life, I've never told Huyen that I don't like the piano. The only person who knew I didn't like the piano was Huyen from my previous life. At that time, my condition deteriorated rapidly because he threw away my cat. Huyen, who couldn't stand the sight of me, actually, for the first time, put aside his work and moved back to the villa to take care of me. It happened to be our 19th wedding anniversary. Huyen gave me a Steinway piano that was airlifted to the country. Even though I said, I don't like the piano. I used to learn it just because Mom liked it. Huyen just gave me a set of jewelry as a supplementary gift that night. He suddenly seemed like a different person, being meticulous and patient with me. How do you know Yang doesn't like the piano? Mrs. Hua was persistent and asked me again, Yang, do you want to learn the piano? I quickly gathered my thoughts and refused her with a smile. Aunt Hua, I still need to study. I really don't have time to learn the piano. After dinner, I was about to go back to my room to rest when Huyen stopped me. Yang, after the quiz tomorrow, we will choose seats according to our grades. Where do you want to sit? Seeing that I didn't speak, Huyen continued, is the 5th row by the window okay? This was the seat I always sat in when I was studying in my previous life. Huyen looked at me with eager eyes, expecting my response. I looked at him deeply and casually said, whatever. My perfunctory answer made Huyen extremely excited. Until the next day, he watched me bypass him and sit next to Chen Ling. Luo Yang, Huyen called me in public. He twitched the corners of his mouth and asked me, did you get the wrong seat? No. Huyen stood there awkwardly. It was a long time before he silently sat down. Weren't you the first to choose a seat? Why did you choose here? I couldn't help but complain to Chen Ling. The seat Chen Ling chose was really bad. In the first row in the middle, I'm nearsighted. I can't see the blackboard if I sit too far away. She usually doesn't wear glasses. Seeing that I was skeptical, Chen Ling frankly explained, I don't have extra money, so I didn't get glasses. Oh, I pouted. I thought you were afraid that someone would sit next to you, so you deliberately chose this really bad seat and left it for me. Chen Ling looked up from the test paper and told me very frankly, you're overthinking. Whether I was overthinking or not, after school at noon, I still dragged Chen Ling to the glasses store outside the school and forcefully bought her a pair of glasses. I said it nicely, if you can't see the blackboard and your grades regress, who will help me with my studies? Consider this pair of glasses as my tuition for you. Anyway, I was using Huyan's money. He owed me so much. What's wrong with spending a little of his money? Originally, I just wanted to buy a pair of glasses for Chen Ling, but unexpectedly, I made her cry. When being bullied by Su Jiai and the others, Chen Ling didn't shed a single tear, but when I put the glasses on her, she burst into tears. Chen Ling kept choking and saying, Luo Yang, I will definitely pay you back when I have money in the future. It was not easy to comfort her. When we returned to the classroom, we were stopped by Huyen in the stairwell. He questioned me. Why didn't you choose the seat we agreed on? Who agreed with you? I impatiently asked him. Huyen, did I promise you anything? Huyen immediately fell silent. He looked at me for a long time before speaking again. Yang, why is everything different? Are you also I smiled and looked back at him. Also what? Unfortunately, Huyen didn't answer me, but the fact that he stopped me in the stairwell reached Sujiai's ears. After class, Sujiai came over in person to warn me. Stay away from Huyen, out of concern. Chenling also advised me, Luo Yang, you'd better stay away from Huyen, try not to have any contact with him. To convince me, she also took the initiative to tell me the reason why she was bullied by Sujiai before. Huyen just asked me a question once, and Sujiai said I was trying to seduce him. Yang, Sujiai is not someone to be trifled with. I'm afraid she'll cause trouble for you. I wished I could stay away from Huyen, but he was like a clingy ghost. He would always suddenly appear beside me at unexpected times. I silently sighed, putting down the exercise book in my hand. I reached out and hugged Chenling, who looked worried, and comforted her. Don't worry. However, Chenling's worry soon came true. 7. Let's talk. Sujiai stopped me in the corridor. I originally wanted to refuse, but seeing the undisguised hatred for me in her eyes, I suddenly changed my mind. Okay, in this life, Sujiai's attitude towards me was so different. Sometimes I also wondered if, like me and Huyen, she had also been reborn. What do you want to talk about? I took 2 steps towards her and asked her. Sujiai didn't speak. When the voices in the stairwell got louder and louder, she turned her head and glanced at me. She said contemptuously, nothing. If you weren't living in the Hua family, you wouldn't even have the right to talk to me. As soon as she finished speaking, she fell straight backwards. Huyen, who was coming upstairs, happened to see the scene of her falling. Luo Yang, why did you push me? Sujiai cried and questioned me. Her words made the surrounding classmates who didn't know the situation cast blameful glances at me. Huyen frowned and didn't speak. He looked up at me standing in the corridor, and then asked several boys to take Sujiai to the hospital. When Sujiai left, she was still crying to Huyen. Yen, my leg hurts so much, will I never be able to dance again in the future? Huyen comforted her a few words and watched her leave. After everyone had dispersed, Huyen walked up to me. He looked down at me and his first words were, go and apologize to Xiaoyi. Why should I apologize? She fell by herself. Huyen let out a deep sigh. Xiaoyi studies dance. Are you saying that she used her own leg and her own future to frame you? Yang, I know you hate Xiaoyi, but that's all. He suddenly realized something and didn't continue. I sneered and deliberately asked him, all what? Huyen, I just transferred to this school and I don't have any conflict with Sujiai. Why don't you tell me why I would hate her? Huyen looked at me in silence. The more he tried his best to hide the fact that he had been reborn, the more I wanted to expose him. Because you know that I was reborn just like you, right? You know that Sujiai did a lot of things to hurt me in my previous life. You think I hate her, so I would take revenge on her and push her downstairs, right? I thought that since I had said so much, he would at least be more honest, but Huyan's lips moved for a long time, and finally he was still denying it. What you said, I don't understand, but if you do something wrong, you should apologize. Come with me and apologize to Xiaoyi. Okay. I was so angry that I laughed. Huyen, you're still the same. Even if you live a new life, you're still a coward who only knows how to deceive himself. He doesn't dare to face the mistakes he made in his previous life, so he also doesn't dare to admit that he has been reborn. My words made Huyan's pupils tremble violently, but soon, he turned his head and no longer looked at me. I'm going to see how Xiaoyi is. After saying that, he quickly turned around. I don't know if he was really worried about Sujiai or just wanted to escape from me as soon as possible, but I couldn't let him go so easily. I took a few steps and caught up with him. Since you think I pushed her, of course I have to go and see her. By the way, let her think carefully again whether it was really me who pushed her. 8. When Huyen and I arrived at the hospital, Sujiai's leg had already been put in a cast. She was lying on the hospital bed and started crying as soon as she saw Huyen. The doctor said my leg is seriously injured. I'm so scared. Seeing me enter the door behind Huyen, she turned her head and questioned me again. Luo Yang, why did you push me? You know I study dance. My legs can't be injured. I listened quietly as she finished speaking and then smiled and asked her, Sujiai, are you sure it was me who pushed you downstairs? At that time, there were only the 2 of us. If it wasn't you, who else could it be? She was emotional and acted very realistically. I've been studying dance since I was a child. Do you know how much I cherish these legs? You've ruined me. My parents won't let you go. Luo Yang, just wait to be expelled from school. Huyen patted Sujiai's back soothingly and turned around to order me again. Yang, apologize. I ignored him. I just looked at Sujiai and continued. You think there's no surveillance in the stairwell, so you can slander me, right? Sujiai, I suggest you find someone to look carefully again. See if there's any surveillance nearby that you didn't notice. Sujiai's face froze for a moment. I saw this subtle expression of hers. Sujiai wasn't reborn. Because a reborn Sujiai couldn't not know that the surveillance on the opposite teaching building could capture that area. I was a bit disappointed. I was about to leave. Huiyan originally planned to leave with me, but Sujiai stopped him and said, Ayan, my leg hurts so much, can you stay with me? Huiyan glanced at Sujiai and then called out to me, Yang, wait for me outside for a while. Only a fool would wait for him. I walked out of the hospital without looking back. Yang. As soon as I got back to school, I was stopped by Chenling behind me. She was out of breath as she handed a USB drive to me. What's this? Chenling took several deep breaths before saying, I heard from my classmates about what happened between you and Sujiai. There's no surveillance in the corridor to prove your innocence. I searched for a long time and finally found the surveillance on the opposite teaching building, which just happened to capture what happened between you at that time. Sujiai's father is one of the shareholders of the school. I was afraid they would delete the surveillance. So I rushed to the surveillance room and secretly made a copy of it. Instantly, a warm current welled up in my heart. I affectionately took Chenling's arm and acted coquettishly with her. Chenling, you're so good to me. Chenling adjusted the glasses on her nose. Even though she tried her best to hide it, I still noticed that the tips of her ears were completely red. She somewhat unnaturally suppressed the corners of her mouth and pretended to be cold, saying, Hurry back to the classroom. The midterm exam is coming soon. You have to focus on your studies. It's a pity that the surveillance that Chenling went to so much trouble to copy for me wasn't needed. At night, Sujiai was sneaking around in the corridor looking for the surveillance, and she was caught red-handed by Huiyan and me, who happened to return to school to get something. Before I could say anything, Huiyan had already walked up and asked her, What are you doing at school alone so late at night? Sujiai mumbled for a long time but couldn't come up with a suitable excuse. I couldn't stand to see her embarrassed, so I kindly spoke for her. Of course she's not at ease, so she came back to look for the surveillance. I also thoughtfully pointed to the teaching building opposite for her. The surveillance you're looking for is over there, and it can just capture this area. But it may be too late for you to delete the surveillance now because I've already made a copy. Sujiai, I'm asking you again, did I push you? Sujiai bit her lip. She looked at Huiyan but found that Huiyan was staring at her casted leg at the moment. With a cast on, you can still come to school alone. Sujiai was so anxious that she was about to cry. She explained incoherently and finally had to admit, Ayan, I'm sorry. I was so scared at that time that I thought it was Luo Yan who pushed me. Actually, I accidentally fell down by myself. Huiyan shook her off with a cold face and left straight away. The next day, under my threat, Sujiai admitted in front of the whole class that she had fallen down by herself. 9. In the second semester of our sophomore year of high school, Chenling and I applied to live on campus together. She did it because her aunt had to leave the local area due to work and was worried about leaving her alone at home. I did it because I was fed up with Huiyan's false attentions. In this life, I don't have a deep relationship with the Hui couple, and they just asked a few questions before agreeing. Only Huiyan strongly opposed it. He asked me, Why do you have to live on campus? While packing my things, I replied to him impatiently and perfunctorily, It's convenient to live on campus. And I can study better. Huiyan didn't say anything more, and it was quiet behind me for a long time. Just when I thought Huiyan had left, I heard him suddenly say, You want to stay away from me, right, Yang? I really thought we could start over, but you won't forgive me, you still hate me. I turned around and looked at Huiyan, and deliberately asked him leisurely, Why should I hate you? Huiyan, you're so strange. You said I hated Sujiai before, and now you say I hate you. Huiyan looked at me for a long time. He slowly closed his eyes, then opened them again, and twitched the corners of his mouth. As expected, you still hate me, Yang. Can you forget the things in the previous life? Can't we start over? I looked at him disdainfully and sneered, Aren't you pretending anymore? But Huiyan seemed not to see my obvious disgust. He continued talking to himself, Yang, since God has given us a chance to start over, let's forget the things in the previous life and start over. Okay, Huiyan is really extremely despicable. I suppressed the anger in my heart and looked at him disdainfully. Huiyan, in the previous life, the one who was hurt wasn't you, and the one who lost everything wasn't you either, so you can easily say that we should forget those hurts and start over. But why should I forget, and why should I start over with you? The person who inflicted the harm can easily say sorry. And with just these 3 simple words, he attempts to erase all the harm the victim has suffered and obtain forgiveness. He really has high hopes, but Huiyan still didn't give up. Yang, I'll make up for everything you lost in the previous life in this life. Okay, Before my engagement in the previous life, you said that you thought you were the happiest little girl in the world, as long as you're willing to let go, in this life. You can be good friends with Sujai just like at that time, and we won't be siblings anymore. Mom and Dad won't object to us being together. We'll get married after graduating from university. Mom and Dad will love you as their own daughter, and we can live a happy life together. Yang, you can still be the happiest little girl in the world. Let's start over. Okay. I refused him with a cold face. No, I can't be friends with Sujai in this life, and I definitely won't marry you. Huiyan, when will you stop deceiving yourself? I'm not deceiving myself, Huiyan stubbornly retorted me. Yang, nothing is impossible. There was a crazy glint in his eyes. Huiyan is a paranoid and unreasonable madman. I don't know what methods he used. Soon, Sujai also started living on campus and was even assigned to the dormitory where Chenling and I were. She took the initiative to show her friendliness to us several times, but both Chenling and I ignored her. Until the day before the final exam, Chenling and I were reviewing in the dormitory when Sujai suddenly rushed in and shouted at us with tears in her eyes. Why do you guys hate me so much? I've already apologized to you, and I've been trying to please you. What exactly do you want? It's my birthday today, but I have to endure your cold looks in this lousy dormitory. I begged my mom to pick me up, but Huiyan wouldn't let her. He forced me to be friends with you. I don't want to be friends with you at all. I hate you so much. Since I was sensible, my mom has asked me to please Huiyan and make him like me so that I can marry him in the future. I've been trying very hard to do these things, but why did all my previous efforts go to waste as soon as you, Luo Yang, appeared? Chenling and I looked at each other, watching Sujai sitting on the ground crying hysterically. Chenling pulled me and we left the dormitory. She asked me, "Do you think I'm too cold towards Sujai?" I shook my head and told her, "She bullied you. It's your right to treat her however you want. No one can ask you to forgive someone who has hurt you. In my opinion, Chenling is kind enough." At least when she left the dormitory, she threw a pack of tissues to Sujai who was crying. After that day, Sujai became even weirder. She started pestering Chenling and me by any means. She applied to the teacher to change her seat and sat behind me. Sujai created an illusion that we were good friends. She said, "I've made up my mind. I want to study hard with you guys in the future, and I hope I can even go to the same university as you." So she often asked me to teach her how to solve problems. Yang, please teach me. Sujai's tone made me vaguely think of things in the previous life. At that time, I was her best friend. Every time Sujai acted coquettishly with me, she used the same tone. Chenling secretly asked me, "Has Sujai really changed for the better?" "Maybe." I looked at Sujai who was walking towards us not far away. I softly said to Chenling, "But I still think it's impossible for a person's personality to change suddenly. No one suddenly becomes bad, and no one suddenly becomes good either." 10. Such days continued until the end of the college entrance examination, just as Huiyan said. He was really trying his best to make up for what he owed me in the previous life and was gradually retrieving the things I had lost before. Thanks to Sujai's one-sided efforts, my relationship with her did ease up a bit. The Hua couple also treated me better and better. After the college entrance examination, they even specially picked me up and took me back to the Hua family and said they would throw an 18th birthday party for me. Sujai, who came to the Hua family to find me, learned about this. She volunteered. "I also want to contribute to Yang's birthday party." Huiyan smiled and nodded in agreement. "Okay. You're Yang's best friend. If you're willing to help, Yang will definitely be very happy." After saying that, Huiyan looked at me meaningfully. Yang, your relationship with Xiaoyi is getting better and better now. As expected, nothing is impossible. I knew what he meant by that, but I just smiled and didn't refute him. On my birthday, Huiyan gave me a wristwatch worth more than 3 million yuan. I didn't refuse and happily accepted it. After all, my fostering relationship with the Hua family would only last until I turned 18. There would be many places where I needed money after leaving the Hua family. Since he was willing to give it, I had no reason not to accept it. The Hua family had great influence in Beijing. Even for my birthday party, many celebrities and influential people came. There were also some classmates from my class who were invited by Sujai. I only invited Chenling. This birthday party was so grand and magnificent that Chenling and I felt a bit out of place. We hid in the backyard together. "What are your plans for the summer vacation?" Chenling took small sips of juice and softly replied to me, "I plan to work during the summer vacation and at least earn enough money for my freshman year's living expenses." I rubbed the watch on my wrist and asked her to take me with her. Before I could finish speaking, I suddenly heard a scream coming from inside the villa. When Chenling and I rushed to the second floor, Huiyan and Sujiai had already dressed themselves, but the ambiguous marks on their bodies and the messy bed in the bedroom made it easy to guess what had happened between them in this room before. Uncle Hua slapped Huiyan in the face in front of all the guests. Doing such a thing, don't you have any shame? Sujiai stood in front of Huiyan and cried to plead for him, Uncle. Don't blame a yen. For a moment, the Hua family was in chaos. Huiyan saw me standing behind the crowd. He tried to come over and explain something to me, but was stopped by Sujiai's parents. A yen, you can't leave. You have to give us an explanation. This party ended prematurely in the end. At around 10 o'clock at night, the people from the Su family left the Hua family. Presumably, the two families had already reached an agreement on the solution. They all had smiles on their faces when they left and spoke politely. When I was going back to my room to sleep and passed by the study, I happened to hear Uncle Hua say to Aunt Hua, let them get engaged in a few days. You start preparing for the engagement banquet in advance. At night, Huiyan knocked on my door. I pretended not to hear. The next day, when I was about to go out to work during the summer vacation with Chen Ling, I was stopped by Huiyan. He explained to me. I don't know what happened yesterday. I was drugged. Oh, I smiled and looked at him. Were you drugged by someone else, or did you drug yourself? Huiyan's eyes showed a look of pain. How could I drug myself? Why not? I said sarcastically. Huiyan, didn't you drug yourself in the previous life, ruin my innocence, and then make me take the blame? In the previous life, I always thought that it was Sujiai who drugged Huiyan. It wasn't until I was on the verge of death that Huiyan confessed to me. He said, Yang, what could I do? I like you. I actually like my own sister. I thought that if I did this, Mom and Dad would agree to let me marry you, but I didn't expect my dad to be so angry that he died because of it. Yang, if it wasn't for liking you, I wouldn't have extremely annoyed my father, and I wouldn't have lived my whole life in guilt, not even having the courage to see my mother. Yang. You're also at fault, so you should stay with me in hell. As he said that, he suddenly hugged me tightly. Yang, don't leave me. I was wrong. I really was wrong. I shouldn't have bullied you. In the previous life, Huiyan deceived others and also deceived himself. He could even shift all the blame for drugging onto me to numb himself and make himself feel better. He has always been a coward who deceives himself. Whether in the previous life or this life, I'm sorry. Huiyan asked me to forgive him in a hoarse voice. I'm sorry for you in the previous life. Yang, I really know I was wrong. Can you forgive me? But I really didn't drug myself this time. Please believe me. He tried to reach out and pull me, but I dodged as if I thought he was dirty. When I turned around and walked out, I heard Huiyan still saying, Yang, I'll cancel the engagement with Sujiai. Wait for me. I left straight away without looking back. 11 When the university was about to start, Chen Ling came to the Hua family's residence to help me move my belongings. The couple of the Hua family returned to their previous cold attitude towards me. When they heard that I was going to move out, they just casually said a few polite words. Everything was going smoothly at first, but unexpectedly, Huiyan came home early. He stopped me and asked, my parents agreed to let you move out. When he saw me nodding, he still couldn't believe it. It's impossible. My parents said they like you very much and have always treated you as their own daughter. Wait, I'll go and ask them. While he was going into the house, Chen Ling and I had already left with our things. After leaving the residential compound, we ran into Sujiai. Sujiai no longer greeted us as she used to, nor did she deliberately try to please Chen Ling and me. I thought that originally she should have no intention of paying attention to us, but for some reason, she suddenly turned back and called out to me, Luo Yang, didn't you really think that I wanted to be friends with you before? To be honest, if it weren't for Huiyan's request, I wouldn't even give you a second glance, probably because she and Huiyan were already engaged. Sujiai even leaned close to my ear and told me her secret. Actually, it was me who drugged Huiyan on your birthday. I glanced at Sujiai and truly thought from the bottom of my heart that she and Huiyan were a perfect match. They could even come up with such a disgusting method together. I will marry him in the future and become a member of the Hua family. Luo Yang. Actually, I don't like Huiyan that much either, but I have no choice. My parents really want to form an alliance with the Hua family through marriage. Sujiai told me in a boastful tone about how many benefits there would be in marrying Huiyan. But I remained indifferent throughout. No one knows better than me how painful it is to marry someone like Huiyan. After parting with Sujiai, Chen Ling suddenly said, Yang, you're right. No one suddenly becomes bad. And no one suddenly becomes good either. She sighed and said, fortunately, we didn't fall for it. 4 years later, after graduating from undergraduate studies, neither Chen Ling nor I chose to pursue a master's degree. We started our own business on my 18th birthday. Huiyan gave me an expensive wristwatch. for children in the Welfare Institute. Being adopted is a stroke of luck, thanks to our good luck in recent years and some memories from my previous life. Chen-Ling and I have managed our company very successfully. I met Huyen again at the bidding site. Over the years, I have also heard more or less gossip about him and Sujiai. They got divorced not long after they got married. At first, Sujiai didn't agree to the divorce. But Huyen always had various means. She was terribly tortured and finally had to compromise. After the bidding ended, Huyen caught up with me in the parking lot. He was at a loss and after pondering for a long time, he only said one sentence, "I'm sorry, Yang Yang." I glanced at him. "If you really feel sorry for me, then withdraw from the bidding." Huyen paused for a moment and actually agreed, "Okay, even so, I wouldn't take it seriously." Huyen is extremely selfish. His sorry has always been just words. When it comes to matters related to interests, Huyen is more clear-headed than anyone else. I briefly told Chen-Ling about today's bidding situation on the phone. Chen-Ling sighed and said, "Since the Hu family is also participating, do we have no hope?" I said, "That's not necessarily the case. The Hu family has even resorted to competing with our company that has only been established for a few years. This just shows that the Hu family is really on the verge of collapse. Just wait. This time we're almost certain to succeed." She heaved a sigh of relief and said, "I feel relieved when you say that. Chen-Ling trusts me very much. She will always trust me."